あ、あ、あ、うん。あ、あ、あ。さあ、ということで、NA の方がね、始まっておりません。とりあえず配信つけようかなと思って、つけました。5分経ってるんですけど、まだ始まりませんね。いつ始まるんでしょうか。という感じで、今からやるのは NA リーグですけども、NA リーグどうなるか。NA の現状の順位というのも見てみましょうか。NA の方の順位は、おはようございます。おはよう。現状の NA の順位はこのような感じ。さあ、ちょっとね、TSM とかもギリギリなので、ちょっと気をつけないといけないというところ、ラストゲームですかね。ディージョナルファイナル5時半って書いてるから、これあれだね。30分遅延してるっぽいな。30分遅れてるっぽいっすね。スタートが30分遅れてるっぽいで。春の配信的には。そうだね。ナイスイグのも別に見てるわけじゃないし。さあ、現状の順位でも見てみましょうか。さあ、現状の1位がダークゼロ127ポイント。2位がモイスト e スポーツ111ポイント。ここのダークゼロとモイストは確定。そしてこっから下が、残り10枠。10枠が今から争っていくって感じですかね。ピューリア、ディスガイズド、LG、コンプレクシー、レガシー、エレブ、8、TSM、SSG、オキシジン、クラウド9という感じなんですけども、TSM が現状9位という結果で、少しね、9ポイントということで少し怖いですね、ここは。TSM がもしかすると落ちてしまう可能性があると。コドちゃんさんサブスクありがとう。1年サブスクかな ?1 年サブスクありがとう。いつもありがとうございます。LG はほぼ確定だね。離れてるから。コンプレクシーまではほぼ確定かな、ここ。ほぼ。こけなければ。なので、レガシー、でも、レガシーから下かな。C 点だったら。TSM も結構9ポイント離れてるから、なんともね。なんとも言えないけど。まだわからないんですけどね。X セットもギリギリの境界線。オプティックも危ないですね。でも、今のところ、可能性として、このドロップインゲーミング以外ほぼないっていうのがね、ここ以外は結構離れてるんで、これ結構きついですね。オプティック自体がもう11ポイント。ここで離れて、さらにもう1個離れてるんで、オプティック以下は1位取らないといけないと。ってなると、大体 SSG までは濃厚ですかね。TSM も濃厚。世界大会は濃厚ですけども、確定とは言い切れないっていうのが、そうだね、下のチームが、TSM か X セットよりか下のチームが上がってきてしまうと、20位までのチームが上がってきてしまうとワンチャンスあると。TSM が落ちる可能性もある。ギリギリなんでね。それぐらいちょっと不安が残っちゃうのが TSM。といっても TSM はね、マッチポイント3回もステイしてますから。3回ステイしてると特に怖さはないか。あまり不安感はなさそうですかね。 注目してるチーム。注目してるチームか。まあ、チームで言ったら最近、コンプレクシティもね、コンプレクシティも結構良くなってきてるから、ここは結構注目どころになるかな。まあ、あとはダークゼロが、このリージョナルファイナル制するのかっていうのも気になるし、まあ、そんな感じかな。7時半スタートなので、多分7時半スタートなので、30分間は暇です。ちなむと。でも今日はどちらかっていうと逆転劇っていうのはあんまり見られない可能性高いな。現状ここまでだもんな。X テッドしかボーダーはあんま近くないっていう。他は結構遠いから、入れ替えはあんまり起こらなそうな感じはするね。NA なんか平均的にみんなポイント取ってるから、逆転が起こらなそう。おはようございます。伊藤さんおはよう。さあ、ということで、少しの間ね、お暇な時間です。30分間。さっきの EMEA でも見とくか、ちょっと。さっきの EMA でもちょっと流しながら。前回の前回世界大会2位だったか？オプティックは2位までいったっけ？どっかは2位取ったけどな。去年だったかな。去年のチャンピオンシップ、あ、チャンピオンシップ2位なのか。2位まで行ったけど、ちょっと苦しんでるという今回の大会ですね。
To truly work within the scraps of trials as they make their rotation down, which they'll have to do this game as we're pulling back on over to that staging area. Well, we'll give Alliance in 07 another good run for their money.
Alliance gonna likely do very well here, not just because they're close to the ring, but because they've got unfettered access to some of the more common zone pulls in this situation. A team like 07, who have at least one member near the Mirage, is still going to be delayed on rotate because they've got to get everyone else over there. Passion as well, both Passions should have a good time, while Element 6 continue in their lootless state.
And this is something that we'll talk about a little bit later on and check in with, especially given the fact that with these Season 20 changes, getting yourself more situated with that loot on top of your Evo has become a difficulty, and one that is usually managed by taking action, finding those fights, and sourcing out some of that extra damage, some of which is
30分まで暇なのでね、ゆっくりとしながら待ちましょう。
Outside the Mirage de Trois, caught a bit more attention than 07 would have been expecting. And given that they're on white shields, they don't have things like a crypto, and they certainly don't have a support legend in order to get Naski's banner crafted. It might just mean that 07 have to play this game out, unfortunately, as a duo.
We'll see. There is still a lot of available time to work with here in terms of setting things up, but ultimately, especially without support-based legends in play here, it makes it so hard to play for that kind of recovery. As a whole, it's not the worst. At the end of the day, with this zone pull, they still can make quite a heavy defense, even in a confident position like Mirage Trois.
For teams that are coming out of Monument, say full English, they'll likely have to go through the southern end of this rotate, perhaps going through Harvester. And Central rotates do always scare me, Zephyr, because there's so much more opportunity for you to be gate kept when you're moving through the path. That a lot of
おはようございます。実況解説助かります。まあといってもまだ始まらないので、7時半までです。But with a Watson here as well, I see this as an almost Team Portugal situation where they may not have the best loot so far, but with Watson Gen to help keep their shields up, they should be able to get into purples.
Now, this is something that can definitely help set them up here, especially for the setup regarding how they survive out here in this building when their Evo gets set.
Now, Zephyr, let's talk a little bit about the zone endings here, because there are a couple, notably one by Passion here, one by the other Passion over here, and a couple by Forge that are super common for zones like this. There's the outside chance that we go upwards towards 07 and the Mirage Trois, but I like these three zone endings. Anything else you're keeping your eye on?
I definitely want to take a look, especially at some of those chokes as this bears on, because you made good reference to Alliance getting some of their major witnesses to this landscape. But the thing is, the majority of our teams are on that northern side, and breaking through, whether it be directly or something like that evac, is going to be a huge topic as we make our way through this game.
レイさんおはようおはよ
Keep your eyes on those areas of the map, especially the likely endings.
う。あと15分ぐらい待っててくださいね。
To mention, the Passions are really on top. If they even land close to each other, staging and landslide, it is a passionate section of the map. I'll stop for now, since we are back into the lackadaisical part of the game, especially for teams that have made their early rotate.
A lot of familiar faces. One I do want to bring up here as we make our way through is LVH. Over here on this western building, they've got great transition if they can barrel across with a potential zone pull. But even if it works its way back down there, this is the second time they rear their head.
これはさっきの EMA の試合なので。
Go next, having lost lifeline. We saw what he did to 2R1C in the end game. Can't imagine what it's doing to go next in the mid game. In fact, I don't even have to imagine. We're watching it right now. Bambino's just gone down. And Kaishi, unlikely to get out of here alive, especially when constantly hounded by the crypto. Everybody knows there's one free kill on the low ground, and the question is just who it'll go to.
Between Maiden and the full English and crew, it is Made in Heaven from across that inevitably put down the damage where it counts. And for a team that starts so confidently with loot found in trials, they're unable to make the transition that bears witness at the end.
オフライン戦はまだ先ですか。さっき公開されてて、5月の2345かな。なんで2ヶ月後ですね。まだまだ先です。
JMW, they'll likely not be able to recover banners in a nice way. There's a chance that Graceful gets to walk up, but for teams like Forge, who had an excellent position in the ring, having now descended onto the low ground and lost two, who can say what the future holds?
Up to Slayers in the end, the big boom, the man himself, the fragger to be. He pulls off the battery here and from behind. Seems like damage from across from them is actually sealing the deal for them here in the end. I believe it's that caustic gas that sends 07 home.
アリルさん、今回の世界大会は現地行くのか。今回行かないっすよ。基本的に行くのはチャンピオンシップなんで、11月とかかな。だからあんまり行くことないっすね。年一です。
Really like this from Element 6, albeit they aren't the ones who provide the majority of that damage against 07. It's a good sign that they're playing effectively out here on the edge and pushing the fights alongside these third parties. That's the most effective strategy to get yourself set up, even if you're working with limited loot like the Element 6 is.
ANC outplayed, working with extremely limited space. Do pop up and take a few shots at Forge, but Forge are not even their biggest problem. With Andy Jacks down, there's no way to secure additional cover, and this little cubby hole
あと10分ぐらいですかね。
with for the long time. Teams have nothing but time to try and take you out, and Andy Jacks res will not go off. Shex is going to have to head for the hills, and that's assuming they can even make it out alive. But ANC outplayed. Will they do in this one? Like so many teams as a duo.
This has been, like I said, that kind of occluded area that we talk about towards this northern side. Getting and breaking through staging, even before you get to some of those chokes, has been the true competition for the majority of our teams alongside this poll here. Thankfully for ANC, they aren't done just yet, but you can see even for a team like Made in Heaven, they've been stuck here within this building since what was that first Zone 1 rotation, have not been able to push much further.
Really funny to watch that course of events as well. We'll call it delayed Bangalore smoke with Caustic, using things for a bit of cover. Made in Heaven make all use of the low ground while LCDF fight for the height. Forge still right in front of them, and Forge, as you will recall, a duo the last time we saw them, will struggle to put up resistance in a straight-on 3v2, but that's not what's happening right now. LCDF have to deal with not just Forge, but Made in Heaven from below.
For Wilhelm there, caught out on one side, Slab, trained beam upon Shex on the other. For Helmet 6, they've done a great job of what feels like controlling this entire upper section of that staging geyser area. The thing is, we still yet to see an answer for how they are going to bridge this gap and start to play more towards that southern side. If they need do so, on the other end of things, we get a similar situation between Amit and Aurora, who are opting for potentially a wider swing here.
Aurora still being out by Harvester is a super, not uncharacteristically, but compared to the rest of the lobby, a super late rotate. Aurora are likely looking for fights on teams that have stuck around a little far behind, but being on low ground in this position.
お、ライブ配信してるぞ。あ、これはさ、なんだ？あと8分後って書いてんな。これしとくか。いつのやつだこれ？先週か？始まってんのか？あ、チャット動いてる始まってんな。始まりましたと。始まってないけど。本配信が起きましたね。
50 flash on caustic. I'm on ultimate high. I'm ultimate high. I farmed out a caustic up there. Wait, I'm gonna swing this for keeping. I suck at climbing. I'm literally the worst. That's it, I think. I need to work on that. There's multiple. Alright, play safe. They're gonna. Yes, two teams. One might swing left. Chill. On that side. I got him. Nice. Last team. Full three. I'm on. Wait, I'm gonna counter this down. I'm swinging. Who's done? I got ulted. I can't help. Crack caustic. 45, swiggy, 45 to 2. On me. Two cracked. Bang 50 flush. Let's go! Holy dude!
Starting soon 6分。
Holy. We are so back. Oh my god. Timmy's making pub videos. One's knocked in front of me. Okay. Take this. Play on me. Caustic's running back, I think. Caustic 60. The building's not in. They're gonna swing out. I'm not banging on this. We can wipe this high. Yeah. I'm nading it. Okay. Crack. They're going to bridge. Take space. Work up. Chucked off my bangle. Go. I'm burn netting. Yeah, they're back on bridge. Backside here. I got blood on scan. Cracked. I'm nade spamming them. Rising below us? Kill run at bridge. They're all dead. We need to make sure we get wrapped. Below me. Okay, I'm gonna peek bridge then. If there's nobody bridge. Underneath me. Dead. 63 on the other. I'm coming to you, FD.
He's one. Nice.
Dead.
I know the last team.
いやでもギルドがモイストで輝いてくれたの嬉しいな。NRG じゃ輝かなかったけどモイストに行って輝いてるからめちゃくちゃいいね。
Baby, good shit. Hey.
Exit. Bro, on that bridge. You just want a countdown zone from mod stats. That's inspirational. That's inspirational from the boys.
Our best world's edge. Woo!
It's literally just what happens when we don't get just some stupid shit happening to us, bro.
100%. That was a really good call to play. Skyhook side empty, good shit.
各チームのいいところ出してくれてんのかな。
Yeah. They're jumping.
Yeah, I think we got space on the left here.
Take space! Just everyone take space! We can afford it!
I gotta kill.
Aiming on the opposite side!
Yep.
I'm looking for a vert. No, it's an arc. Good nade here.
I'm putting a random jet down that I'm multi-selling.
No, Coke! Play on me! Play on me!
We can't get wrapped on the left, guys.
Yep.
I'm playing left with you, Watson. Hold left with me, Watson. Hold left with me.
Scanning.
Yeah.
We have info. Force left, right.
On roof.
They're going left.
Bang, aping right side. Bang, cracked hard here.
Bottom left door. They're gonna play it out. They're gonna play
Yep.
out left door. They're gonna play out
Guys,
left door.
stay group.
Yeah. You gotta call so you can eat us on the right side, Madness.
I'm looking for kills.
On height. There's two on height, Watson.
Yep.
I'm trying to farm on height. They're jumping
They're
on
jumping.
height.
Watch left.
Still on height.
Down top.
Still on height.
You drop. Let him fight. We need to go, I think, soon.
Scanning.
Now I'm
Got
peeking.
cracked. Wait, boys, I'm batting.
Back bang. You might get swap.
Last team.
Last team.
I'm playing above.
I'm peeking left. I'm playing on top.
I'm ready whenever.
Can we drop and swing?
Let's come out, guys. Let's come out, Madness. Back up.
Come out,
Okay.
Madness, come out.
Okay, they're gonna swing.
Hold the heady, Madness.
They ran out.
They swung out. Bang dead.
Blink, two dead.
Okay, fine.
Nice, baby. Nice.
Go.
That's
いいね。
what you need to do, bro. You didn't let me overcall you, man. You thought it was a good idea and you fucking went.
Yo,
We need to just trust what everyone's saying.
was that some simple Apex, boys? What was that?
Like I trusted your spawn, you trusted my call to ape the wall. Like,
What do
that's
you
literally
know,
needs to happen.
bro?
Yeah.
You guys hit a simple macro rotate off UAVs. You get the fucking best spot in zone because we know we can take it, and you just play
Everyone needs to
simple
talk.
Apex.
Everyone needs, for us to win, we have to all talk. If one person's in charge, we're fucking dumb as hell.
Okay, can I come? I'm coming.
I'm trying to cross you.
Careful,
running up that.
I still have 30 bullets though.
I'm good. Inside, it's still solo. 30 heavy?
30 heavy, yeah.
I got 130.
Okay, it's fine.
I
I have 20. Okay, that's good. Yeah,
さあ今日もダークゼロが勝つのでしょうかと。
One P. One P.
F89, one shot, wow.
I'm gonna die.
I'm coming to you, Reese.
Hitting the still.
I cracked him.
ダークゼロなマジ仕上がってるからな。普通に勝ってきてもおかしくないよな。
There's the Watson.
That's the Watson.
I can't see. Yeah, trying.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's
nice.
they're doing.
Okay, I have no more heavy ammo, so I gotta live. I jumped the bat.
ジェンもなんやかんやゼロと一緒にずっとやってるのすごいよな。
Just cross the doorway, no?
Yeah, like,
ダークゼロメンバーは変われどゼロとジェンバーテンは絶対変わらないからな。そこはすごいよな。
I do. Oh, it's 3
Just
man.
fight down that rock. That rock is
I just supposed to go this way.
solo. It's solo.
It's a 3 man. It's a 3 man.
It's a solo. He's knocked on the other side of the fence.
They might ape him right now. I have blood on if they ape him.
No. We just focus this game.
Yeah.
No,
I said they might ape him since they scanned him.
Yes. You
Yeah,
just
they're going to.
focus on that. They can't do
They're going to.
anything. Bang on,
They're looking out on him.
Monkey gun, bang on, bang on, blood on blood, everything.
Okay.
No, Ty, solo. I'm gonna 1v1 this guy. I'm 1v1 this guy.
Okay.
Swinging.
I swing.
Be pussy. I can't see.
Dead. I killed him. I'm pushing.
Nice. Push.
One shot. One shot dead.
Dead end.
Blood on launcher. Careful, Jen. You're really weak.
Keep going.
フナティック圧倒的やんって言ったけど、オーラの方が圧倒的だったし、ダークゼロは NA で同じくらい圧倒的だし、世界広いねと感じました。めちゃくちゃ感想。まあでもそれぐらい広いってことなんだよな。ウィッグ見ててみて。ウィグなんかしてた？お母さんに電話してるけど。さあ始まるか？ apexlegends global travel split 1 year 4。さあ来た。はい、ということで始まりました。ちょっとね、著作権レイドがあるので、EA のね、公式に関してはね、なんか、著作権がね、かかっちゃうので、著作権レイドかからないように一旦、このドゥーンと多分著作権なんですよね。ドゥーンってやつはマジ著作権なんで、ダメなんですよね。X セットがいない世界大会寂しい。上がってきてほしいな。X セットな、どうなるかわからないよな。もうまあドゥーンって言ってんだけどずっと著作権レイドじゃねえか。これだよな、著作権レイド。ちょっと待ってね。TSM 落ちは外れないか。現状の順位はこのような形。ダークゼロ1位、モイスト2位という感じで、この2チームは確定してます。その下からフューリア、ディスガイズド、LG、コンプレックスイ、レガスイ、エレブエイト、TSM、SSG、オキシジン、クラウド9が、こちらが、現状のね、ボーダーライン。で、TSM もね、ちょっとボーダーに近いということで、ちょっと怖いところであります。X セット、ドロップインザゲーミング、ドロップインゲーミング、オプティック、エンターナル ECA、センチネルズ、ネイティブゲーミング、エペギャング、ナインライズって感じで、この12チームプラスの8チームでリージョナルファイナル、マッチポイントまで進んでいくと、そういった感じですね。確かに TSM はこれ、12枠に増えてくれて助かったろうな。8枠だったら終わったしね。12枠に増えて助かっただろうな。そうなると。さあ、これが今決まったチームですかね。現状決まってるチーム。APAC ノース、APAC サウス、そしてノースアメリカが右側。ノースアメリカには決まってますね。EMA も先ほど決まりましたけども、まだ、あ、出てるね。チャート作られてるわ。このチャイナ枠何なんだろうな、マジで。DF がいないっていうね。チャイナ枠は APAC サウスじゃないのか？どういう仕組みなんですかね、こう中国の枠は。マジでこの中国枠って何なんだろう。 さあ、そして世界大会の舞台も、これ、著作権食らいそうだからやめとこう。音流すの。めっちゃラップのあれだったし。今回の世界大会の舞台は、ロサンゼルスと、ロサンゼルスです。NA はね、エイパックスノースと同じようにね、知ってる有名どころとかめちゃくちゃ多いからね、応援しやすいですよね。当の中国選手が意味わからんって言ってんのが意味わからん。どういうことだ？さあ、クラウド9が新しく、エーペックスに戻ってきたと。ノーティー。また、ノーティーってさ、前もないんだ、C9 だったよね。また帰ってきたんか。ノーティー、カオティック、ソーサラー。帰ってきたのか。中国で大会があって、プロリ3画面抜いた上から2チームが選ばれたらしい。なんだそりゃ。DF がでも落ちちゃうっていうね。DF が落ちちゃうっていう、ちょっと、あれな展開だけど。フェイズも落ちちゃったからね。TSM もこけたらやばい。さあ TSM もちょっと怖いぞと。TSM もめちゃくちゃこけてしまうといけない可能性がある。そんな感じの順位ですね。まあでも TSM がこけるってことは考えられないけどな。予選落ちっていうか世界大会行かないってことが考えられないよな。TSM の構成はバンガコースティック、そしてそれがワトソンへと。構成レパートリーですかね。まあでもそうなんだよな。TSM も言うてもめちゃくちゃこけないといけないからな。0ポイントとかじゃないと、まあ10位とかあったら普通にいっちゃうしな。まあ0ポイントじゃない限りは大丈夫だから。 で、直近のスクリームでは TSM が1位で終わってると。93ポイント圧倒的で終わってますね。リージョナル、1日前、リージョナルスクリームのファイナルですかね。TSM が、まあずっと勝ってると。やっぱこのマッチポイント形式になったらね、TSM が圧倒的強さ見せつけてくるんだよな。バリスティック何回か使ってましたね。バトルオブザ T1 オーラ GS。何なんだろうこれ。なんだろうこれ。何の表だろうこれ。マッチポイントに強い明確な理由とかあるんですかね。何なんだろうね。まあでも底力は強いだろうな、TSM。おはようございます。みんなおはよう。仕事の人は頑張ってください。在宅ワークの方は、裏で聞いとってください。ニートの方は、まあ一緒に見ましょう。フルで見ましょう。フルで見て APEX を勉強して帰りましょう。APEX でね、プロゲームになれるかもしれないんでね。全然始まらないじゃん。レガシーもチーム決まったんだ。あ、そうなんだ。公式音声はね、著作権レイドされちゃうから、公式がね、著作権で、著作権ダメな、著 著作権ダメなやつら流すからさ、困るんですよね、毎回。プレイエイペックス、毎回著作権レイドされちゃうから、YouTube で警告受けちゃうんですよね。なのでたまに切ります。切ったりつけたりします。うんうん。ミラー配信殺しです。収益ゼロになるからな。収益ゼロ。ミラー配信。早起きして、配信して、収益ゼロ。終了です。さあ、マップはワルゼッチ、ワルゼッチ。で、ストッポストッポって感じで、2試合交代ですね。さあ、ということで始まりそうですね。やっと始まった。さあ、始まりそうですね。さあ、モニュメントでは X セット被ってますね。X セット被ってんの辛いだろうな。ボーダーチームだしな。あと2ポイントで世界大会がいけそうという。2ポイントの差だからな。ゲームオンプリーズ？ゲームオンついてない？あ、音ついてなかったのか、ごめんね。ミュートしてた、普通に。Sorry。俺の方では聞こえてたから、ついてるかと思った。さあ、アンチは南側ツリーに寄り切るか？まあでも火力かな？うん、火力だね。左のこのターミナルのここだね。ターミナルってもないか。 さあ丸か。左下、ディスガイズドが一番近いポジション。
I'd say that Disguised are probably going to stick around straight in the center of Thermal Station and harass the squads that come in.
さあ初戦どうなるか。
That has to be the play. They even have an evil harvester there, looked like. And also nice to note that it's early Christmas opportunities for Optic, considering the fact that being a team that also needs to secure as much points as they possibly can to even qualify for LAN, this could be
エッグセット抜けていくけど、物資渋そう。物資きついだろうな。このファイナルファンタジーのさ、体験、この体験さ、つけてるとデバフじゃない？思うんだけど、なんか当てやすくなっちゃうみたいな気がするわ。あと目立つし。そう思うと A パックノースつけてる人少なかったな、あの体験。デバフだよなマジで。そう思っちゃうんだな。そしてオプティックが1枚落とされてしまった。ドロップが落とされて、しかもサポートいないからこれ回収ちょっと厳しそう。スパレジャーマジでデバフだからな。スパレジャーマジつけない方がいい。While getting scanned by another team from what looked like to be Epi. That's going to be Space Station getting information on how many members are also present for Optic. 気持ち的にはね、強くなるよね。持ってると。ういみたいな感じになるもん。フューリアが現状の一番いい建物、下の側取ってんね。This time Furia was able to rotate in, no problems, no questions asked. Should be just fine, setting up next to Disguised for the moment, while Oxygen have high ground. Lots of really viable areas to play during the early days here in Thermal, but as we all know, this zone can seriously constrict and punish those that have misread where the ring will ultimately end. 円形まだ開いてるんだ。円形開いてるんだ。このタイミングでここ開いてんだな。なんかヒズワトソン全然ワトソン使ったことなさそうだったな。アイロンどこを効果してたもん。TSM も意外と早いね。中継ポイントいるし。このポジションに取ったよね。TSM？ LG はいわばキープして、後からここをキープして、ここからゆっくりとここに入っていくんだろうな。
Clear their backs right there too. TSM predicting that zone like you had mentioned. If it completely shifts away from Thermal, they're going to be in the best spot possible because all the teams that have to exit out of the middle of Thermal are just going to be easy pickings for the squads that have already found themselves on the northern end of those zip lines that lead out of Thermal. Love seeing this right here too, and where that next circle is going to be pulling from the telestrated demonstration provided by Dio. We got to see more of these here as we tune into XSET, who are still trying to rotate for their lives.
Ape Gang, one of the only squads to still be running Conduit in Season 20. Have continually
コンジット使ってんな。コンジットガスバンガ。
two squads mirroring each other on the rotate, and Ape Gang certainly with an advantage given that they
エペギャングランパートとか使ったけどな。なんか生えてる。キノコ生えてたわ。
take advantage of this here too. They have the replicator to their backs. They can get the ring console right here. I'm just honestly surprised to see that this chase is still happening for Exit. From literally all the way by Monument, now you're talking about on the opposite side by Tree. And this is just another spot where easy third parties could happen. Thinking about C9 by the tunnel right there to the right. We know the complexity is playing by the choke
どこにあるか。
of Tree when you leave from the survey beacon into that south side of thermal
う
station.
ん、まあ無難だね。
We get the next circle immediately.
無難に真ん中。
Legacy had called this out from the very beginning inside of those buildings.
Still looking good for teams like Oxygen and Disguised. Disguised probably having the most flexibility, but you're right, Vicky. This is aging really well for teams that made their way deep into Thermal early. A squad that will be approaching from the north will have to deal with so much pressure through choke points that lead into Thermal. So EEC and Optic, who will be rotating right next to each other for now, will all ultimately come through very similar places and have to fight.
For this northern choke, looks like EEC have gotten whiff of the duo that has been Optic Gaming. Remember, they couldn't get the banner from what we had seen prior, and there's no support legend on that team, so cannot get the crafter going to work out for them. Moist Esports, one of our teams that have been dominating this split within North America right now, looking to get involved in that late fight that we saw between Ape Gang and Xset.
ディジェクトがチャンピオン取ったところに似てる？ディジェクトがチャンピオン取ったところどこだったっけ？
Even the replicator here if you need some last minute bats, but you could see some shots being taken with the Hemi. Getting even
最強ポジション。
complexity, hold on to the height, not trying to allow any other teams to try to rotate from this back end.
It's a good angle by Lou, and
なんでハングル文字？
not only the creative space you can take with Valkyrie, but caustic barrels as well. Complexity honestly should be pretty safe from any team that would rather
なんでハングルですか？
onto them from Tree. I do wonder, however, what Complexity will do to access future zones, because we know that it's not pulling up here, so they're going to have to make use of jump tower, Valkyrie, something to actually get into a good spot.
しかもこれ普通に読んだらキムチじゃね？キムチ。キムチっぽいな。
Highlight reel after highlight reel these past weeks.
キムチって書いてそう。アメリカにもキムチってあんのかな？ 確かにフォント対応しなかったな。場所ってなんか早っ。あ、当たってるなでも。いやー SSG ちょっとやばいか？そうだでも相手側もそんなにモイスト入ってんね。このギャフはさすがにモイスト寄りすぎんな。ダウンも見えてるし。ちょっとフォーカス出てるぞ。大丈夫か？怖っ。ちょっとフォーカスずれちゃったな。また別パーティー。EEC だ。エターナル。Tsm はボーダーです。
A place that ultimately, with EEC being the last to arrive, should give them not just a lot of flexibility, but a lot of loot to go with it.
Such a great call, the timing from Sentinel's part too, but that was after they lost out on one. Now only playing this out as a duo. EEC try to close in the gap. They hear a team flying in from the distance, and look who is up ahead. It is Optic, still not only as a duo, but split up at that. That was the player that we heard flying in. Sentinels now see the opportunity for this 2v2 potentially here, while in the distance, more of these teams have made their way from the north.
まあボーダーって言っても一応離れてはいるけどね。9ポイント。まあでもボーダーって言っちゃボーダーですね。低い方、9位ですからね。ゲームをもうちょっと大きくできますが、5% 上げました。
Sentinels out in 18 for game number 1 in this lobby. E8 now looking to see the other teams that are coming in from the north side. Dark Zero
さあダークゼロはどうするか。バンガガスブラッドアンドいつもの構成。やばい、3サタ詰められてる。無理に入って、正面はレブ8。
Really nice presence of mind by Dark Zero. Break down the door, take down the barrel
この後入るとこないなみんな。
Use someone else's barrel to make sure that your aggressive angle is
かなり入るとこ難しそう。各チーム。
With height do have a pretty palpable advantage, but the ring won't let either team exist in this space. Everybody is going to have to move towards the choke that Native currently have control of, and Dark Zero are not waiting for the ring to make the decision for them.
俺が落ちたエレベート。これはダークゼロ押していけるぞ。見えるの？何が見えた？スキャンで見えてたんか。いやー、なんかきついな。正面も抑えられる。ダークゼロがここ取ったと。その押していくがおにぎりハウスで待ち受けてるそうだぞ。もう12部隊早い。
When you control everything, when the ring is at their back, still dominate the fight. I guess we'll find out as there will be another team that gets a shot at it. Native
がするとチェーン。ゼロが前に行く。さあどうだダークゼロと。これはさすがに車線が通るか。別パーティーもいる。最後と落ちる。別パーティーいいのか。ダークゼロだけか。 TSM 来た。さあ TSM2 対3、これはさすがに取るでしょう。おっと TSM やはりマッチポイント形式が強いか。しっかりと後ろのチームを切り切った。
The comms are flowing.
So TSM
shows up when they are needed the most here. They came in, they third party, they take care of Dark Zero, and even more important to note, this entire north side of the
TSM
is free for them. The only teams now fighting to get closer into the middle part of Thermal would be LG, Oxygen, Furia, who are all fighting their own battles, leaving TSM a nice wide rotate.
Furia managed to make it in, but
やばいグレードが。グレードやばすぎる。グレやばすぎる。えぐいえぐいえぐい。グレえぐすぎだろこれ。地獄じゃん。1ポイントできた。偉い。やべのチームもったいないな。ダウン取られちゃうのは痛いね。ここマジで苦しいね。周りがすごい。ディスガイズめっちゃキル取ってないか。ワンチャン取ってるよな。中央めっちゃ寄ってるし、超寄ってるからな。え、めっちゃキル取ってるやん。キルポすごっ。6も手に入ってる。やばない。キルポ6って。うわ TSM もめっちゃ取ってんな。まだ入ってんだけどディスガイズド火力上強すぎだろ今回。火力上強すぎんか。そしてスキットルがスキャンして上にいると出たんかな。
Still can't believe Optics alive in this final game after the start. That put him in the disadvantage, forcing them to play this out as a duo, now playing this out as a solo. TSM closing the gap here, pop the beast of the hunt. They fully try to set it on as they design a drop down with the portal. He's
ポータルでキルトに来たんか下のポー。いやレップス起こすのきついなちょっと。
How devastating is that? Just in trying to push disguised, not even take a fight against them, just grab a spot.
ポータルで抑えに来たね。
TSM lose one.
火力のレース強いな。ポータルで上から上ポータル繋いで下潰しに行けんの。危なかったら戻ってもいいしね。火力強いな。
Hitting those shots for right now. Still with the double blue. Calling in the Bangalore ult for getting away, but this is such a great space to hold here for complexity. This is where the circle is going to be pulling once everybody's forced to drop down. Talking about Disguise and TSM from that middle part, playing up that low ground here, but it's still easy pickings.
マジでキルポイント美味しいじゃん。
Again, Legacy has just not had a single break after they were able to get to that building very early on, but you could see how
めちゃくちゃボーナスタイムやなこれ。
with a lack of loot, whether it be ammo or meds in general.
入ってんの？
Legacy don't really get to
いや
play.
無理無理無理無理無理。あいや。あいや。
Even hit the res, follows up to simply die to DSG. Another kill, another tally for Disguise to own the height in
うわこの後普通に TSM 潰されそう。
is what brings them off it, and it becomes a clash of the Titans. Disguised have been up here all game, but Complexity have been approaching from the south slowly and inevitably throughout the past 10 minutes. Can Disguised actually challenge Complexity, since Complexity have to share space with no one, and Disguised, unfortunately, still have two members of TSM right underneath.
コンプレキシーとディスガイズ以外フルパじゃないな。オプティックまだ残ってるし、スキットルまだ残ってるんだ一人で。
Also nice to note with 4 squads left in the lobby for this final game, that Optic is still alive. There was nobody to contest that one member being Skittles from rotating all the way around Thermal Station from the outskirts. And now TSM looking to see if they could find their own angle. Because if they start rotating from the front end, not only is it going to be easy pickings from Disguise being on the high ground, but also for Complexity that's going to have TSM in their line of sight.
いやでもコンプレキシー早く動かなきゃいけないな。この人数だったらディスガイズのも TSM 側に仕掛けられないな。仕掛けるとコンプレキシーが来ちゃうからな。
Exterminator has not been called in yet, but Complexity, he is there. You can see the missile storm coming out. Skittles taking his time before he tries to slide away, but who's going to claim that KP? They look like hungry vultures. Look at the skies.
Oh, Monsoon.
Before Monsoon with the set.
ヘイトは向いポジション的にはヘイト向きづらいけど、いやきついな。ポジション的っていうか人数的には向きづらいけど、まあ、手前の青コン貼り付けたらワンチャンか。青コン貼り付けたねこれ。貼り付けた。いいとこ来た。わあでも落ちちゃった。起こせるかこれ。いや厳しいな。これで223。どうなるか。
This is a 3-team game. All of them have to be involved in how this end game plays out.
I'm just at least banking on these last two teams to try to
greet each other,
split some attention. This
guy
portal, and he manages to escape through, but he's a little bit outside the circle. He doesn't have time to reset here. He's going to be forced to drop down.
ガップがやばい。
Here comes Timmy.
ガップがめっちゃくさってる。
He can't get his shield back to health.
そうだ？ガップで落ちるか？コンプレキシー。まあヘイト的にもらわなかったなやっぱ。結局 TSM とディスガイズをぶつかってコンプレクシーですか。
Limited engage capacity really came back to bite them. Unfortunately, Disguised couldn't output enough pressure on Complexity and had to fight TSM. For as much as losing a singular person for Complexity hurts, it doesn't do.
初戦はディスガイズドじゃなくてコンプレクシーが取ったと。リザルトとしてはコンプレクシー1位19ポイント、ディスガイズドが上でキルポイント10ポイントも拾って2位、TSM が13ポイントといった感じかな。結果的に見るとコンプレクシー、ディスガイズド、TSM が1、2、3位の順番で並んでたね。オプティックも1人で頑張って伸ばして4位まで来てますね。まあ、確かにこんなに上入ってるアンチはなかなかないね。ディスガイズド美味しいねこれはさすがに。こんなね上入るってことないからな。 あちょっとね、著作権テロ来るので、一旦ミュートにしてきます。ここまでは大丈夫か？いや、怖い。もう著作権テロは怖すぎる。競技勢のキーマウとパッド勢のキーマウの比率どれぐらいですか？ NA のやつ見てみるか？ NA の比率的に見たら、パッドが 60%、キーマウが40%、6対4。キーマウの方が4割、パッドが6割って感じかな。NA の場合。イーミヤの場合は、キーマウの方が少し多いと。5対5、5と 4.5 ぐらいか。エパックサウスも、多分こっちもキーマウが多いんじゃないか。そうだね。エパックサウス。地域ごとに違うね。やっぱり。エパックのパッドがめちゃくちゃ多いと思うけど。エーパックノスは、5対、ほぼこれもアンノーンもパッドだと思うから、6対、6、4ぐらいか、大体。アンノーンは選手が分かってないんじゃないかな。どのデバイスか多分分かってないだけだと思う。はい。多分これで著作権レート大丈夫だと思う。1分半のところが一番やばいんだよな、著作権レート。
Now, ultimately, we walk away with the complexity win, but the kills, they even up the score quite a bit here. Disguised from their high ground above, picks up the necessary 3 points that keep them equivalent here on our standings.
Really impressive play, and we did say multiple times, Disguised in a thermal zone should do well. This is expected of them. Let's take a look, however, at those teams that did fall a little bit short. Teams like E8 standing out, Xset with a 0-point game, Sentinels picking up 3 kills, but still not getting to place too high. Of our top 3 teams, however, we did have a pretty huge disparity.
さっきの試合がディスガイドとした上にいたからね、高いとこから来ますね。
kills worth of damage from that high ground, which between the two of us, we know provides the damage when you're able to capitalize there. So while they don't walk away with that kind of numberage, they still get to deliver not just on the statistics, but the points, like we said earlier, that keep them currently tied for the lead.
Now, as of this first game, there's still a lot that goes up in the air. Notably, in EMEA, we had teams that were not expected, that were not dominant during the regular season, picking up wins during our first 2 games. The fact that in North America, that's already
1試合目はコンプレクシティを取って、2試合目からこれからが2試合目と。マッパーワールドエッジ。
for those that need the wins, need the points towards the bottom of the leaderboards, because our top teams look really dialed in, Zephyr.
Absolutely, and this is something that we know for a fact already from their early split performance. Most of these teams, if they just kind of maintain this exact pacing, will happily work their way over to LAN. Teams like Optic, Xset, Drop-In Gaming need to keep pedal to the metal here if they want to even have a crying chance at achieving that. Optic, of course, a huge shout out.
Well, it's time to start match 2, our second on World's Edge, and of the first set, at least the final, before we move on over to Storm Point for those teams that perhaps feel a little bit more confident on this map. There's plenty of opportunity to pick up kills, pick up points, and I cannot help but wonder, Zephyr, as we return once again, what is happening in Monument? Neither Ape Gang nor Xset is benefiting. What is the point?
At this, I'd love to dig through the head of Ape Gang here and figure out exactly why this change came through this late, especially if it doesn't come with any kind of additional KP or starting damage here. But granted, last game,
またエクテトと初動が被ってると
absolutely barrel down the
ボーダーソイチームは
chasing Exet all the way to tree.
4チームぐらいか。おっとっとっとっと、回線が大丈夫か。怖っ。の回線。そしてアンチはスカイフック。マルさんおはよう。
to rotate into the ring, and if that's not what you're doing, or if you are joined unfortunately by some other squads, it's tough luck. Taking a look at this next zone though, looks like we got a pretty heavy split between teams that can play through the countdown side and what is ultimately likely to be a skyhook zone.
And of course, with those skyhook zones, we get the survivability of so many of our rosters upward into that zone 4 here. So for even those who might be on later or more extended rotations, well, looks like they'll have to find out next time.
ちょっと回線なかったか。なんか最初ちょっとおかしかったからな。まあまあまあ、スカイフックでよかったかな。
I've made mention of this back during day 9 when I got to take a look at it more directly on the cast. DSG is the only team that gets to have that absurd or that aggressive of an off angle going into some of these final fights. In that last game, we talk about the stack. DSG right above TSM, a struggle that was imminent. The fact that we see the extra rotation there from Designful, gets down low, tries to make some kind of additional damage or knock happen is a perfect choice there. Now, granted, it doesn't work out in the end, but it is just one good take regarding how it can typically work in an aggro sense rather than just the stereotypical, let's use Portal, get into a better place in zone, and play from there.
I've certainly been enjoying it, and I want to bring in somebody who I know loves meta mix-ups. Rain Day, please join us, because we've been talking about the Wraith. I've also noticed that Valkyrie, with the emergence of Season 20, has definitely started cropping up a lot more and giving teams more rotational options.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because the evac tower originally, when she was so meta, the evac tower came in as a solution for people who don't want to maybe play Valkyrie, who want to expand the roster. And at that point in time, it worked. It gave teams an option to go in and say, we don't necessarily need to feel like we are beholden to what Valkyrie brings. We could still rotate around a map like Stormpoint, which, for crying out loud, we know it's big. It's got cars. We know it's big. It's designed to be big. Valkyrie was pretty standard, but now with evacs serving more of a strategical role versus a necessity, Valkyrie's in the same way. She serves a strategical role and is not a necessity, but you could still have yourself put in a position to where Valkyrie, like we're seeing, is a comfort pick for players. And with that in mind, the way that she's expanded with her perk system to get a little bit of her VTOL jets back, to get whether you go for missile expansion, you go by 5x3 if you pick the perk there, which I think a lot of people are sticking with the traditional 4-3, but they could also go with the extra skyward dive height. You start to see a little bit of the Valkyrie of old, and more importantly, you just have a character who can access height again. No other legends really in the meta right now that can do that as easily. And Dia, that's kind of where Horizon has almost allowed Valkyrie to come back in and say, okay, well, if I need to hide, if I need to escape, if I need to challenge up on top with my Bloodhound, Caustic, Bangalore meta, I can't challenge that team on top.
メタについて
With
話してるのか
Valk, I
な
might be able to get up, poke, come back down, and do my thing. So I think I've loved seeing her in, and I've also loved it fit for a team that maybe even like TSM could get somebody feeling confident again on a familiar character.
I've really liked the mix up. I think one thing I'm surprised by is perhaps the lack of Horizon, because you mentioned verticality, and Horizon was all the rage before we got into season 20. But Zephyr, Horizon has basically disappeared in season 20 outside of maybe one or two teams.
I mean, ultimately, if you want a great example, we got to see Element 6 today, this morning. They're one of those big Horizon lovers, and you get to see how we have moved away from it. While it still does provide that kind of wombo combo that can work out in certain situations, the fact that it is left behind, especially alongside the perk system, doesn't allow for the extension regarding the creativity and, of course, the extra access you get with some of these other picks and combos, such as things like the Bloodhound Bangalore, which has provided a little bit more of a in-depth punch for most of our rosters out here. So while still good in many, many ways, there's just better.
Well, it's interesting to talk about the fixes that have happened for certain legends and seeing how perks have maybe added certain legends back into the meta that haven't been there for a while. Wraith particularly is one of them that we've seen options for. And whether you're taking your portal and getting the increased reduction in cooldown on that, or you're going and getting a safer into the void, we've seen certain players kind of jump into that more and more. And Disguise has been one of them. We've seen it's Timmy playing more of the Wraith.
何時再開か
Disguise
な
as a team in general have been interesting as a story point here.
朝ご
Not
は
just
ん
with the
は
changes to the legends, but some of the changes.
はい BGM 声かけしてこう。朝ごはんはナポリタン食べました。ナポリタン。時間が過ぎちゃうと眠くなっちゃうからな。一応これに合わせて起きてるから全然寝てないんだよな。眠くなる前に開始してください。頼みます。おにぎり好きそう。何やねんおにぎり好きそうって。
Play. Obviously, we highlight the play, but it's hard to not account for the fact that they are a team that is taking a lot of headlines sometimes for not.
ティミーのお母さんめっちゃ美人な気がする。ティミーってどこのハーフだったっけ？韓国？アジアっぽい顔してるよね。なんかどっかのハーフじゃなかったっけ
？Talent that comes through and shines between the three of these players that in their previous iterations, whether it's of course it's Timmy, the Menace himself, or even
日本ではなさそうな感じはするが。
of course Enemy making his major debuts against teams like HEC and further.
目立ちがすごい。
Each of these three have had their star shining moments that now in a combined force have definitely given headway to why Designed is good as they are, has continued to rear their head. Not quite ugly this time though.
No, absolutely not. Hey, passion. That's all it is. Passion. That's all I want to hear.
中国だっけ？なんかどっかのハーフだよね。
The results that they've got there, can they keep it up? Well, certainly we know Complexity can.
最初日本人かと思っちゃったけど、多分日本人では多分ない顔はしているけど。
All right, well, all I have to say is that I hope Xset and Ape Gang are comfortable being uncomfortable because we are about to get right back into
韓国系アメリカ人だった気がする。
same scenarios ever.
調べたら出てくるのかな。
To be honest, I feel like both of them are fairly comfortable. They're just losing out on loot.
まあでも地っていうかもう国籍自体はもう絶対アメリカだと思うけどな。
Nothing had even really happened at Monument. Not even a hair's breadth of
情報があるかどうか。
between the two of these rosters before we even got the chance to see those rotations come through. So
他に
ultimately,
探しても出てこないか
it's
な。
just punishing. Neither of them get to walk away from Monument with full loot.
アライアンスのユキは日本人っぽかった。まあユキは結構日本人に近い顔はしてるよね。韓国系アメリカ人、あ、そうなんだ、韓国系アメリカ人なんだ。やっぱティミーは韓国系アメリカ人なんだ。
appearance is on the line with how many
韓国の名前持ってんだ。
but compositionally as well. So you're losing in the leaderboards because you're not able to pick up as much loot and you're not able to have as much impact on the game and you're not able to pick up points.
始まった。始まった。
Especially compared to Ape Gang who are running things like Conduit, you also have less eco
これ始まってんの？
the later you get into the round than
始まったか。
your counterparts who are rotating from
始ま
the
ったね。
same place.
Now, to remind folks at home here, Ape Gang has to win today. There is no if, and, or but, or second place finish that will get them to land. The only way they're going to be influencing the potential, well, happiness that is Los Angeles is if they come out on top, which makes this entire scenario all the more interesting.
As the Evo Harvesters have just come up, Xset get the benefit of planning their rotation with the foreknowledge of how they'll grab more Evo and hopefully move themselves up to blue. Should be just one Evo cache away, or rather Evo Harvester away. Where they will be moving over towards the south end of the map. Optic and Ape Gang mirroring them. As this round, Zephyr, things are certainly changing up. We won't get the Skyhook finish that we thought we might have had, but Optic may not have the easiest time either. Rotating up are going to fight, but Xset already took the Evo cache. And almost take down Skittle Cakes as well.
Still a bit of separation there, just barely. Trapped on the edge of that smoke, finally lays that one down to give the full clearance here for Optic Gaming to make their recovery. Last time around, though, we were sitting on just solos in the presence of Optic finally achieving what was end game potential here. Thankfully, with the heavy rotates, more important here, Xset have made their way out and Optic hit blue.
右下。とりあえずやめて。リマッチしたらとりあえず TSM 勝たせるようなアンチですのやめて。リマッチしたらとりあえず TSM に寄せたらいいでしょうって思ってないこの運営。毎回こんな感じしないか？リマッチしたら毎回なんか TSM が近いところになるような気がするわ。これやってますか？もしかして。
This is really tough here because optimally when we talk about
はい、TSM 来ましたね。予想通り。TSM アンチですか？また。
Besides complexity or slightly further north where we get into that bridge there. So personally,
一回ちょっと TSM のファンを怒らせないように TSM のところにバスっとこうって。スリスリ。スリスリ。
transitioning to whether it be the bridge end or the geyser finish where they are forced to drop.
ちゃんなおさん入れる。おはよう。
Harvester that we highlighted earlier, Xset caught by indecision, get nothing, sitting outside of Harvester, waiting to move through this POI. They find themselves down meds and now engaged on in a situation where we already know they've got very few resources to work with. It's Ape Gang just behind them on the optimal rotation for both squads. This is something, a characteristic that they will share inevitably on every game during World's Edge. Xset and Ape Gang have to be following each other.
It's something you would hope could be remedied just by the difference in terms of speed here between these two, but optimally taking advantage of even say things like that replicator forces the issue or habit at hand. For Sentinels, this is a wide swinging rotation that could lead to personal success if they can take advantage of that opposing height to play from on the other side of bridge. It's not the easiest. It doesn't come with a ton of cover, but can work its way out, especially if the pole does eliminate a good chunk of the lava siphon height from play, like we saw during day 9.
With both a ring console and a survey beacon here, I'd really like to see Sentinels hit the survey and the ring console in about a minute and 30 once the ring closes and play for a god spot later on. This is something that Sentinels have always been really good at.
LG が打たれてディスガイズとかをしていく。ディスガイズ強くだね。
See whether they're able to do it is disguised, make use of their own calling card, the willingness to take a fight.
It never seems to stop with this roster. Finding this kind of aggression is something that we have seen put disguised above the rest of these teams here. And ultimately, while we are going to see Luminosity get away, it just goes to show the pacing that sets this roster above the rest at times here. Still, they've got quite a distance to make that rotation. And as you said, Dia, whether it be through the south side of Siphon Direct or all the way around here, the challenges that await them, especially on edge, is where we're going to need to see that aggro potential come alive.
The continued pull into Siphon will force 9 Lives a little bit closer to challenging for the high ground. It's likely that we see 9 Lives play for control of the center building. And they seem to have a really clear rotate into it, no matter what path they choose to take. Going to go for the one that's a little more at risk, but should provide them a few more options to adapt with. Furia have lost out on
Furiaやばいよ。
putting them in a much worse position comparatively. And on the opposite side of the zone, it's going to be just up to Keon to survive for as long as
浜ちゃんさんオファれる。あれでもちょっとやり方あれだな。ドーム側に TSM ずれたぞ。TSM 読めてなかったか？ドーム側も別に。うわー、これは。これは。誰も読めてません。
makes its way up towards that northern side of Grandma's where no one has set themselves up. No one has the current best position. And, well, I'd be more curious to know who actually understands that this change has occurred.
I hope it's Sentinels, because Sentinels are sitting on a ring console. I believe they've just scanned it, but the rotation into Elevate may take out one or both squads. We'll keep our eyes on the kill feed for how this fight evolves.
家全部ガラガラだよ。さあ、これと RK のやばいよ。一人にスイング、さすがにこれは無理。ブラハもウィングマン強すぎる。今ブラハにウィングマン持たせるのが正解なんじゃないか。なんなら誰も読めてないでしょあれ。プロチーム誰も読めてないから、これはどこのチームが入ってきてもおかしくない。
anymore. E8 have just completely destroyed the game plan of Sentinels that were on Furia's page from just a few seconds ago. The plan is now just to survive for as long as possible. Even that is not guaranteed.
おっと C9 やばいぞ。
In a similar area as E8 continue to get aggressive. They've already cracked C9. Why not go for a bit more? Shubi zooms on.
おお C9 全滅。一気に落ちたな。エレベート来たか？
For Zap, I mean, this is to no surprise. Elevate have been on the forward fist when it comes to the split as a whole here, but to represent like this in game 2 is a huge catch-up for them now when we talk about this game as a whole. The nice thing is hopefully we see them pick up a scan here shortly to potentially influence where they might rotate next. For TSM, they've got an inkling of understanding,
おっと TSM うまい。
but they're far late to the party.
読んでるのに。まずい。ビーム。いやこれはやばい。レップスだけだけど。 別パーティーも来てるから1人は起こせる。 SSG どうだ？もう一回チャレンジする？さすがにちょっと怖いね SSG も行くの。
It will be immediately smelled out, not just by SSG, by any one of these teams across or above them, especially to the north.
TSM どうするか。
We know that teams like Legacy will be forced to rotate through TSM and SSG, the duo. Likely not the one that's going to come out of that alive, if anything. Plenty of chaos in the future towards the south end of the map, but everything else likely being determined as we speak. Zephyr, this
TSM の位置をバレ始めた。
had a lot of room for other teams to rotate in.
TSM まずいよ。
Filled by the likes of Eternal Sentinels at the very northern end in Optic.
そしてダークゼロ。
Dark Zero in their own rotation searching for the answers that be here for Elevate. They had not made yet rotation and instead are on the potential cover of what might be this next move. Let's take a look in the intermachinations of the mind of the
うわ
leader.
間欠戦がつってってない？こっから間欠戦寄り切れんの？右上見たら間欠戦めちゃくちゃやってんだけど。やばない？間欠戦寄りすぎでしょ。これ読めねえよ。そこの家いるの？そこの家いるんだ。このアンチ読めませんね。
Dark Zero are marvelous at predicting zones. We've seen it play out before, and in this particular case,
ダークゼロそんな感じですかこれは？ダークゼロさん、今回は TSM じゃなくてダークゼロさんに渡しますよ。最初 TSM やったけど、ちょっと TSM の批判多すぎる。ダークゼロにしよう。ダークゼロさんお願いします。アンチキュイ？アンチキュイって。
Now, they do have the pressure of Moist behind them as a potential difficulty to deal with here, but at least on the other side of things, Exet has provided some of that initial damage. Looks like Waltzy looking for an access point just as similarly, but that kind of back-end pressure at LOS does not give them the knock they need to even things up here. With 40 seconds off of the round close,
いやもう一歩苦しい。
team from zone.
And this zone, it does not take kindly to strangers. Moist are gonna have to walk straight into Exet or Legacy on the low ground. The choice is theirs, but neither one seems particularly enviable. Few meds will keep them alive for now. I don't know. Waltzy is gonna go on a heroic
X セットはやばいやばいよ。ノクターナル。あー落ちた。ん？なんか X セットいたぞ。さあ TSM が取ってる。X セットも移動できなかった。まあ無理だね。ワンチャン。ああ、ワンチャン去ったけど。ワンチャンあったな。惜しい。
I'm sure they'll be looking at that going, what on earth happened there? But Legacy have got bigger problems. It's former Luminosity fighting current Luminosity. And I tell you, Sweet being down is not doing LG a whole lot of hope. They do take down one member of Legacy on the other side. Slayer doing so much damage, but unable to clutch it up. Funk gets that off and just as everyone slides past, takes out Nazul as well.
俺がし落ちた。ここでオキシジン。TSM もなんやかんや耐えてる。This guy is the portal. いやーこれは苦しい。ちゃんと守ったね。よく守ったわこれ。下の方が守るの難しいんだけど。NA ではジブ採用いないか。ジブ採用はいないね。
Find them at their weakest point, and when they make their return, are just alongside them to pick up the successful white here. Now for Oxygen, they've got
オキシジンはこのポイントに行くか。
try to make moves forward, but instead are landing perfectly in their sight lines.
Oxygen are letting the zone run them out a bit though. Playing through the south side, yes, they're
ベインがヘイト取って
they're giving up a chance to
うまい。
scout out ahead of them. Reed's almost
Lees
goes down. Thankfully, SSG do fall before putting
でもアンチの苦しい。
Reed's sure to have been a full knock there.
水辺側でもかなり難しいところ。うわ水辺かなり難しいぞこれ。
Rotation towards the northern side of the ring.
上からの視線も生かしながらエペギャング倒せたらいいけど、正面は絶対来るでしょう。さあ正面、いやそれ落とされる。なんでリングマン。いやグレネード別のセンチネルよく2人で勝ち切ったけど、上のエターナルイッシーがオープティックは側面の9をこれは取りに行くんか。さすがにドロップインゲーミングガス多すぎ。何も見えねえ。ゲームの使用上で一応見えてるけどマジ何も見えねえじゃんこれ。
are certainly doing just that, taking control of these doors and keeping native hemmed inside. Now remember, there is
さあこれ取りに行くか。
just to the south side of
ガスルだったらクソ気持ちいいだろうなこれ。
even successfully make the exchange. The potential for a third party is just as likely, even with all that gas expended, and now the Nox grass no longer available. Drop in have lost a good chunk of their utility, and instead might hear that blood.
We're just taking all these swings to take out barrels, but Bang ult is going to be something different. Jay swings in front of the door, taking it off angle, but it just lets
おー一気に倒した。いやでも近くにオープティックもいる。オープティックがすぐ来るよ。ドロップやばい。ドロップ落とされた。2v2 落としてこれで 1v1 スキットルとうわースキットル勝ったこれ。今の勝てんのマジクラッチじゃん。そしてダークゼロですか。いやーいつも通りですかこれもしかして。いつも通り来ちゃいますか。しかも TSM も生きてる。
Dark Zero masters at setting themselves up for exactly positions like this, where you get to bully, where you get to wage a war attrition on the lobby from an inaccessible point. I tell you what, watching them play Apex Legends,
でもオプティックの位置が
does not make this game
いやでもイヤバが入ってんなダークゼロ。どういったこれドロップ落ちるぞ。あ落ちた。これはダークゼロだ。
target, but at least hopefully puts them now into the top 2 here.
これは2位割り切りしてダークゼロ。第2ゲームはダークゼロ。春ブチ切れてる。なんで春ブチ切れてんの。なんで春ブチ切れてんだ。いつも通りですかダークゼロは。TSM は結構伸ばしたんじゃないかポイントで言うと。アンチを捨ててもらえなかったから忖度じゃねえですかそれは。 ダークゼロが現状の29ポイント。オプティックが23。オプティック上がったね。今の試合で。だいぶ上がって23ポイント。コンプレクシーが22。ディスガイズ20ポイント。TSM も、まあ一応こけたいたけど19ポイント。さっきから1人はかけるね。1人かけるけども、ちゃんと取ってると。さっきのポイントが、今のポイントか。ダークゼロキルポイント11。だいぶ取ってるね。ね、DSM よくあそこから少しポイント伸ばしてるわ。普通にワースじゃないか？ワースすぎる説あるけど。これが確定しているコーチのチームなら、まあ TSM ね、ボーダーって言ってもマジでギリギリじゃないんだよな。ああ、びっくりした。すいません。確定してるチームじゃないから。落ちるのが確定してんじゃないよな。TSM は大ごけしない限り大丈夫ですね。まあ、こけたらやばいけど、どこまでこけたらやばいんかな。こっから0ポイントばっかあったらきついかも。
We give a lot of faith back to the Green Wall, the fan base that remains loyal for Optic even throughout their trials and tribulations. This split. The fact that they're in second now is great. However, looking a little further down the lead.
まあ世界大会ね、2回取ってるから、3回取ってるからね。ダークゼロと TSM は頑張って弾きたいよな。さあちょっと一旦X セット対 C9 って感じ。まあ現状はそうだよな。まあ、そこまでポイント的には現状ノースアメリカ。ポイント的に見るとこんな感じなので、ダークゼロ、モイスト、ディスガイズド、フューリア、COL。まあ一応ここら辺がどうなるか分かんないけどね。ここら辺がめちゃくちゃ詰まってるけど。まあもし下のチームが1位取った場合、オプティックは現状、オプティックが今3位、2位か。オプティックがここで上がってきた場合80ポイント。何も変わらないね。オプティックは1位取るしかないね。オプティックとかが上がってきて、ってなると TSM は確定じゃね？ 確定ないか。確定ではないけど、9割ぐらい確定か。オプティックが上がってきて、X セット、ディスガイズも上がってきて、で、オプティック、ディスガイズ、X セットが3チーム上がってき来ないといけないって感じか。TSM ほぼ確定だな。しかも現状5位だし。確定だわ。確定だったわ。ボーダーっては言ってるけど、ポイントがボーダーだけであって、他のチームが、下のチームがちょっと離れすぎてるから。まあ全然危なくないね。12枠は大きいね。だってね、この半分はもう世界大会確定してるわけだからね、このチーム。C9X セット、そして下のチームが上がらないといけないから、違うな、C9 だってこれ抜かさなきゃいけないじゃん。C9X セットって、このドロップインザゲーム、3チーム上がってきて、じゃあこれだな、X セットでドロップインザゲーム、さらに下のチームが優勝して、で、これが2位、3位とって、TSM が、下位に進まないと厳しい。ほぼほぼない。ほぼほぼ。
Barometer, they've pulled in that area, so should be a relatively easy rotation for them if it continues to be that way. And of course, on the northeastern side is TSM landing Lightning Rod near LG and Complexity. Many things to set up here, but it all depends where that zone pulls.
Yeah, it is nice to know, at least though, with this POIs that we're seeing for these respective teams, that there has been a slight change where Native now will be landing at checkpoint by themselves, and Ape Gang actually have opted to loot the north side of Cenote Cave.
ストーンポイントにマップが変わってどうなるか。
Now each of these teams are going to be having their own set of loot without trying to contest each other here in the Storm Point lobby, at least.
It's a smarter way to go about it, but you never know. Things could change in an instant. Especially in a moment like this in our ALGS regional finals for North America. Whether you're watching at home with your friends or by yourself on this cozy Sunday evening or morning or afternoon, we welcome you as a global audience as we kick off into Storm Point for the first time today to see if TSM, Dark Zero, Optic will pull away from the rest of the pack or if things will stay tight here as it already has been after 2.
Love this nice little overhead. It really puts on the pressure for the teams that need to perform here, especially looking at how tight it's been for North America. Speaking of which, Ape Gang, with the mix-up here, actually trying to split some of that loot over to the north side of Cenote Cave, but that is one member of Ape Gang trying to call out that sole member of 9 Lives since they landed Cenote. Looks like he's trying to get away in time. Bursty just trying to make sure that he's made a statement, and it's amazing loot over by those caves here. Bursty now managing to get away at least just in time means that they'll both be able to walk away with both their lives. The only difference here is, though, Rain Day, is that if Ape Gang do lose out on Bursty for whatever reason, they could go to Replicator since that is a support legend, and they could get his banner if things turn for the worse.
Great insight into Apex, especially competitively. When you have a support on your team, you can craft banners at these new replicators and crafting machines that are so much more abundant and easier to use. They're so much faster, and I really love this addition to the game in season 20. But you don't have to have that support.
ランドマークがな、はまってないんだろうな。
The support legend is on your team. It's some of
エ
those
ペ
things
ギャンが
I've
取っ
seen
て
in
るこの何もないとこで
I've been confused
やっと1個だもん
playing
な
in a normal game.
他全部埋まってるし
I don't have to be the support legend. They'll know that.
前のあれだねダークゼロこれやばいんじゃないかぶつかってうわダークゼロとして嫌だろうな移動したいのにエペギャンがいるから移動できないっていうまあここ嫌だろうなダークゼロとしては移動できないからなこれ無駄な
It looked like they were taking the Trident to wrap around Ape Gang, and while Ape Gang was a duo before the Lifeline had come right back to the rest of the team, they took a lot of damage on that Trident. Luckily, they were able to reset and get away in time because look who's right behind them. It's the Fast and Furious Optic zooming in on their own Trident.
I mean, this is really the most. We could have a race here. Optic trying to search for where Zero.
退場宿って答えてるからな。まあ夜読みで見てんのかな。そこはさられた、そこはさられちゃうとかなりうざいよな。やばい、移動最中にこんな感じになっちゃう。俺なんかトライデント可愛くね？トライデントなんか可愛くなってないか？何これ？いつの間に？トライデントいつから可愛くなったんだこんなに。全然気づかなかった。
I don't know if they want to repeat history here. I certainly think this is an optic that has something to prove, and they look poised to do it.
They didn't have the script writers in their favor out here. That would have been a completely different timeline here, but that's why seeing how close they are right now, why they want to perform so that way they can get the run back over and land. You can see the side-by-side too, where this circle is going to be pulling over to that south side. Definitely expect that north side of Barometer to get
ライフラインはケアパケのためなんで。ケアパケのためのライフライン。
And a team that manages to secure that building early on, especially with the amount of caustics, and now we're seeing
マジでケアパケ専用。
still opting to go with the Watson. We saw them perform amazingly just last week, being one of the only teams running that Watson, but they haven't really been able to put those points on board after those first two games.
Very interesting when it comes to Furia. They're a team that's hot and cold in some ways. They've gotten 1 point in round 2 in their B versus C matchup, which is atypical. Nobody in our top 10 has gotten close to 1 point. We've seen, I think, closest maybe 4, but then they pop right back with a 25. So they won the game. They won the entire
TSM はバルバンガブラッドハウンド。
cold Furia can be, but I think they found their rhythm. They believe they found their rhythm. Madness and Squad have
まあまあ強い状態で行くって感じか。いつも通り。さあバロメーターアンチ。ダークゼロがいつも優勝しやすいこのアンチだけどな。
Only 2 points, so trying desperately to have Storm Point change their fortune soon as possible.
Legacy here, on the other hand, have managed to get to the high ground where Oxygen lands in Barometer. And Space Station with Phony literally manages to find safety inside of this building, immediately gets scanned. But this is what we're expecting. There's going to be a lot of teams coexisting here in Barometer until the circle so happens to be pulling towards that north side. We're going to have to see, because we've seen this type of circle mix up a lot of teams before who do not have access to that ring console in the early game.
Of course, Sainu, great addition to SSG. Coming from Zark Zero, where Sykes replaced him this season. It's been great to see not only Phony and the squad get picked up by SSG, but SSG back into the ALGS. Get good news for the program. DSG, we had talked about them and had a bit of a conversation about the Wraith play. This time we see Timmy on the Bloodhound design, really the Wraith player, and then a Rampart from Enemy. Shocked at this, Vicky, or is something that you understand and makes sense to you?
Look, I thought they were completing challenges, but they were cooking up a very similar team comp over in Scrims. And I know Dia is thriving right now, fellow Rampart player himself, seeing Disguise try out something unorthodox in right now a season. A lot of teams have rather opted to go to where they found the most success, something that they're more comfortable with, but then other teams being the trailblazer to something different. TSM obviously being one of the teams to still rock the Valkyrie. And despite even some end circle problems, they've been finding the most success with this team.
オプティック、俺オプティックあるか？逆転あるじゃないか？扉付近にガスを固めて、ガスを置いて固めるときってドア開かない方が、ドアを開けられないようにした方がいいね。まあ基本的には2階とか1階2階とかあるポジションだったら自分たちが取っとくエリアと取らないエリアに対して取らないところをドアを閉めとって取るエリアはまあ横につけたりだとかドア開けやすいようにしとくといいんで基本的には幅広くエリアを取るときとかに マップをまあマップというかそのガスを別の方に固めておくっていうのが大事かな。
You know, sparingly, but I've seen a few of it, and it was really Alliance actually. They went through a phase in EMEA where they were experimenting with characters like Ashe and like Rampart, and it actually worked for them for a while. But as things settled out in the land, it didn't really show up. Rampart though feels like she's got a place right now in at least Storm Point.
G って多くね。NA G7 多くないか。
You know, it worked with Lifeline, it worked with Aurora. That's now become
NA G って多いな。
kind of the core of what it is in Apex.
APAC ノースは別に多くなかったんだけどな。
Who's to say Rampart can't actually join that caliber of pick?
Hey, with the perk system being included now to season 20, that Sheila is absolutely scary. Ramping it up even quicker is something I do not want to see. That is my sleep paralysis demon in the works.
コイフルの立ち位置がマジ重要。いやこれやばい、浮いてるぞ。いや浮いてるとこ刺されてしまった。そうだよね、離れてるからカバーもできないしな。コンプレックスも来た。キルポネやってきたな。
No fight that they're taking is worth it compared to the other team that they're fighting. You know why? Because the only teams behind them in points are Moist and Ape Gang. So everyone else starting off a little bit better in that engagement. And XSET needs to catch up. So 9 Lives on that rotation here. They're trying to find their way around. Native Gaming is in front of them. That's the team you see. Rambo trying to surge his way forward with this squad, sitting in 11th after 2 games. 9 Lives patiently though, guarding both sides, still in. And with not many players, actually I don't think anyone to their backs, they just have to face teams in front of them, which is the lesser of 2 potential evils that'll have them heading into
ディスガイドはやばすぎる。落とした？落としてんだけど。
He gets the knock, but can you close in the gap here? Design.
よし、がっつりいく。これ取り切るんじゃないか？なんなら。いやーでもどうだ？ラスト1人。いやーここしかも壁立ってダークゼロ。いやーランパ刺さったぞ。
What a play from DSG, designful.
ランパ刺さった。
Come over here, and he does his best version of the classic trick. It's a one-on-one situation too, and though he goes down, he gets right back up, thanks to the firepower of that Sheila. And boy, they look cozy in a corner. DSG, big play, and showing why Wraith still has it.
No, I can't believe what just happened there. All right, you got the whole building. That is all yours. Don't worry. Exit quickly out of that mess, and they are playing off that low ground bridge. Seeing where this circle is going to be pulling more so to the south side of them. Teams like Optic Gaming continue to thrive in terms of their positioning. They called this out very early, and they're right now in the path of least resistance if you consider teams like Moist, who would be the other team to try to rotate through the Harvester side.
Yeah, one of the interesting and most impressive things about Optic is their position calling, and that's what Skittle Cakes is a master at. That's what this team does so well. Has that helped them to get to level 3 fast enough? Sometimes getting caught on those last second circle pulls, a pull like Barometer we've seen before where it just is a little bit too far, forced them to get a bit exposed. But now, instead of running the Gibraltar, they think they feel a little more confident in their ability to stay safe and keep the Caustic safe on those rotations if it doesn't go their way. But they are not planning for failure. They're absolutely predicting success.
オプティックは1位取らないと無理かな。1位取らないと厳しいはず。
TSM on the screen now with reps on the Nemesis facing off against EEC, I believe, holding them at this angle. This is going to be tough for them to pull around. Vicky, you kind of have to acknowledge this squad though. If you're TSM, it's way too far to wrap the other way if you don't start moving. And there's about 15 seconds left. Looks like EEC and TSM both just going to call evac towers and say, let's fight somewhere else, and TSM actually faked the
お
evac.
エバックベイトしてバルジャンした。
It's like the spider and me. They're both pointing at each other because both teams try to just mix up which evac they're gonna take, whether it be the evac or the Valkyrie ult. EC had called in 2 evacs.
ベイトしたね。
That's one utility burned out here as TSM now go for the Hail Mary on where they want to land.
NRG はもうチーム的にはもう解散しましたね。
And they opt to play off the low ground, having to be careful. They're getting shot at by not only Legacy, who has height over them here, but on the other side, it's also dropped in gaming that have height.
This is going to be a hard spot, Vicky. I know they're going to have to fight their way through this. I think this could be death. TSM, you can never count them out, though.
いや TSM やばい。
Low ground so much is the signature that goes on the postage that just seals your fate.
ちょっと危ないが NRG の代わりに LG スイートチャイスイート LG というチームに来ましたね。
They've got a little bit of an angle. This is where Hal could just be saying, Verholz, you got to play your life. Verholz knows it. He's done it before.
グレがえぐい。
Well placed grenade. Almost takes both of them out. The cross, it almost takes Hal down. In fact, it does. And here's Verholz. He's going to have to go solo just to survive.
ちょっと厳し
Not
い。
sure where he's going to go. He is in zone, Vicky, so maybe the idea is just out heal this. They're going to run out of grenades, most likely.
The smoke actually ended up being the insurance policy that Verholz desperately needed to come in clutch for him right now. Gives him some extra cover, some time to reset here. He's been able to pop the medkit and the bat. But unfortunately for him, having to play that out as a rat. We're not expecting Dropped In Gaming to give up that high ground. They're staying up above them, while 8 Gang on the side are still trying to take some shots at Verholz. This guys now are also able to set up with those ramp.
DF は世界行けてませんね。
Bow check in his hand, and much more of this fighting happening on the north side of the circle before that circle closes in less than 40 seconds.
E8, 9 lives doing their best. Procrastination attempt, but
おそらくフィーリア持ちた。
it's due.
ボクシンが車線伸ばしたか？
In about 30 seconds, they will have to move in.
落ちたね。
We'll be waiting for them. Sentinels. And RKN getting so low. He's going to have to big med here with the med kit. And he will get alive. At least they'll stay as a 3. They are in zone. For how long? That's the question. Actually, no, they're right out of zone. They're far out of zone. Excuse me, I confused that building. They're going to have a big move coming up, Vicky.
Especially with the fighting happening over by the barometer tower side. Oxygen playing on the outskirts of this building. Before they start moving in, though, they're going to be exposed out in the open to the teams that have already secured that high ground here. I'm talking about LG, who are able to move away from that barometer high ground here. Hawad is in a lot of trouble here, dropping right next to Phony. Space Station trying to take this fight, while E8 playing this out as a duo, looking to see if they can call in something to make magic happen. Dark Zero continued to thrive in these chaotic
ティミーのチームは
Everyone's moving in. You see one Skyward dive. That
ティミーの
was
チームは
or an evac tower on
1試合目いい成績残しましたよ。
12 points. Shubi and Zach Mays are doing it for Zap. Zap absolutely.
ティミーたちは結果したいかな。
They're going to have to play this one without him and pull off a miracle. They're going to try to use the
さあこれは苦しいエレメントエレベート。ダークゼロがまたポイント待つんじゃないかこれ。おそしていいとこにオプティックのとこに入ってきた。オプティックにネイティブ。しかも試合入りだし。
Surprisingly, Verholz is still alive for right now.
そしてオプティック落とした。
More of this fight is happening here inside the building. Native try to bunker their way and force their way into this
さあ無理やり取りに行
building.
く。
The caustic gas is completely trying to take care of that health. Optic Gaming
無理やり取った
get
こ
eliminated. Native have successfully taken over
しかし9も来る。
this building. And you can even see sharing that too with 9 lives who are playing off the other side.
As you mentioned, great call out. TSM, as the numbers roll through, still in the lobby, so that means Evan has somehow found a way. My map screen, I can't see him yet, but I know that.
いやーしかもめちゃくちゃ最初なんちゃうんだよな。
That needs to be seen. The smokes are heavy.
そう 2v1。
So are the Volt bullets. Dynasty.
これ漁夫が来てもおかしくない。
Wolf is gonna have a chance to go back and make.
いやライフラインが刺さってる。
Dynasty trying to wait just a little bit.
3になった。
Figure it out. And it somehow worked out for him.
ダークゼロ。めちゃくちゃいいタイミングで来やった。やっぱダークゼロなのか。マジで嗅覚すごいな。 あれなんかジェンが入ってない。ジェンがいない。落ちてる。いやージェンが落ちてるけどポジション取り切った。うわこれジェンいたら絶対勝ったじゃんこれダークゼロ。これジェンいたら絶対勝ったな。
Still a lot of placement points to be picked up. I think there's 8 squads, maybe 9. 14 points. It could happen.
え、ハッキングされた？どういうことハッキングされたって？ハッキングされるとかあんの？どういうこと？うわ強っ。ハッキングとかあるんだ。やばくない？普通に。
Who is also rotating, trying to make a move here. 5 squads left.
These nades coming in from EEC, going absolutely nuclear here. It can get eliminated. 5 squads left, and DZ, by the way, uncontested as a duo from the south side of the.
ね、マジで営業妨害だな。普通に訴えられてもおかしくないぞ。でもダークゼロ普通に強い。普通に取るんじゃないか？ジェンいなくても。ジェンいなくてもゼロとサイクスだけでやりそう。普通にある。キルポイントすごいし。オートエイム有効なとかあんだ。やば怖っ。他人のやつオートエイム有効とかできんの？そんなやばいねそれ。まあ結局ゼロが最強なんだ。ゼロ IGL で勝てるんだ。まあ分からんけどもう上位まで来てるしな。They're going to get close. They're hiding. Dark Zero will make a rotation as well, but McLovin on EEC is going to scan and find that they've shifted. Dark Zero now playing the edge. Once more. いやでもガスいないのきついな、ダークゼロ。ガスいたらね。Zero as a duo here with Sykes Vicky. This could be something incredible if they could pull it off. ポジション的にはめちゃくちゃ守りやすいのに普通に割り切ってもおかしくない。2人だからって言ってそうドロップインゲーム落ちて。いやでも普通にある。どうだサイクスに上任した取り切ってさあゼロ次第。いやでもさすがに厳しい。うわー LG いやでも3人いたら絶対勝ったなこれダークゼロ。3人いたら絶対勝ったけどまあまあまあ2人で2位はやばいでしょう。2人で2位はすごいな。しかも2位だけど2位でポイントすごくないか？何ポイント取ったんだダークゼロ19ポイント取ってるぞ。うわーでもこれさ1位取ったらマッチポイントだったじゃん。2人でワンチャンあったのか。マッチポイント普通にあったな。てか全然あったな。3人いたら絶対マッチポイントだったじゃん。やばいな。どうなんだろうこれ。ジェンの配信見てみるか。
チップを世界最強が決まる瞬間。
めちゃめちゃ広告。 どこで気づいたんだろう。これ？
Look at group chat, like, hello?
That is insane.
何で気づいたんだろうな。
He left the game right away.
No, I didn't get the kill.
Yeah, no, they reset it, no?
It's fine, it's fine.
まあ、ダークゼロとしては別に影響はないからよかったけどさ、これが TSM とかだったらやばいんだろうな。まあ、TSM も別に影響はないけど、これで本当にボーダーチームだったら、ゴリゴリになってるだろうな。どこで気づくんだこれ。
Should I go on it? Yeah, hello?
ちょっとあれ見るか。これじゃないよな。アーカイブが残ってないのか。アーカイブないね。これか？
On my ping! I knocked him there!
あ、これだ。何これ？
Wait, what the fuck?
本当だ。やばい、何これ？何これ？ By Destroyer 2009 and Random Apex Hacking Global Series by あ、そういうことか。ハッキングしたよ。こいつらがデストロイヤー2009 and ランダムってやつがハッキングしたよって言ってんのか。えぐくね？やばくねこれ。
That is insane that that happened.
えぐくね？
I'm doing it now.
Don't worry about it, don't worry
I'm
about
getting
it.
hacked! I'm getting hacked! But
I know, it's true. Can you
本当だ。
I'm getting
や
hacked!
ばい。え？全部見えてる。は、えぐ。えぐ。
What you say?
I gotta get the code for you guys.
えぐ。
You're fine. They said they were gonna delay it anyway.
Yeah, they're holding the game till they figure out what to do.
やば。やばくねこれ。
Do I end my stream and restart with delay? 'Cause I leaked it?
これやばいな。
You could discard it and restart it, yeah.
Oh no, but I'm just gonna miss the game.
Tab is saying 3 minutes, but they said they're gonna talk to us.
Yeah, we need
どうすんだろうこれ。
Yeah.
Bros.
Have you changed on your main account, Jen?
Like the password. I can change it, yeah. Should I just do that?
これジェンがハックされたのかな。
I'll do that.
まあでもよかったね。これ戦闘中だったらやばかったかね。
I just don't know what to say. It just fucking sucks that this guy's targeting you.
I don't understand.
Like, do we get Gent? Like, we need to know something, bro.
Yes.
Probably just have to play with him.
マジでかわいそうじゃん。
Unless it's Gent.
Until I get a fix or something. They're not saying
I don't know if we
anything.
can
These
play
fucking.
today. Like, it doesn't matter today, but I don't know if, yeah, I mean, that can't happen again, obviously. I don't
どうすんだろうね。
You said you should prepare a sub in case. That's what he said. So we need to get Gent.
can message him straight away.
I am
Yeah,
right now.
okay.
shaking like a motherfucker after what happened, bro.
It's fine. You guys are good. You guys fucking popped off. Good
どう
shit.
すんだろうな、これ。
I don't believe we lost EC kills. Sykes, you need to jump down early to me.
これ、続けんのかな。これ一旦止まってもおかしくない案件だよな。これ止まったら、このハックした人、マジで徹底的に追及されて、社会的に殺されそうだけどな、さすがに。これやばいな。
We're first by a fucking mile. We'd be on match point if he was there. Who was the team that won? That was super bad. That was sweet.
I think it was sweet, yeah. Holy fuck, I was nuking, bro. Jesus.
I've told Jin, he's available and he says he can sub if we need him. I've told him to join our call so that we can talk to him. Should come in a second.
Nice.
世界大会は多分ね、別回線だったら多分それは大丈夫なんだよな。多分。どうすんだろう、これ。どうすんのかな。ねえ、これやばいよね。何があったのか教えてほしい。玄ちゃんのアカウントが、こんな感じで大会中にチーターにハックされた。ここでハックされて、で敵の情報とオートエムとかいろいろとなんか勝手につけられた。でもなんかこの人はちゃんとなんかゲンがゲンがチーター使ってるわけじゃなくて、ちゃんとなんかチート使ってるってなってる。デストロイヤー2009アンドランダムっていう人が、なんかNA でめちゃくちゃ粘着してるチーターですね、これは。デストロイヤーシリーズのね。こいつが暴れ回ってるっていう。これはどうなるんですかね。どうすんだろうこれマジで。どうすんのこれ。どうすんだろうな。別のアカウントを一時的に貸し出しとかあんのかな。かわいそうマジで。これでマジこの対応マジ大事だろうな。しくったら EA の対応がしくったらまた非難受けるからな。これ本当にどうするか前代未聞じゃね。大会中にチーターがハックするってこんなんゲーム業界であったことあんのか。そもそもゲーム業界であんのか。マジ何のためやってんだよあいつ。このチーター何のためやってんだ本当に。何のためやってんだろうなお前。エーペックス破壊したらこいつしくったらマジで数百億の損害被ることになるけどな。絶対バレないことないでしょ。こんな堂々とやって。さすがにこれマジで数億どころじゃないぐらいの損害賠償くるんじゃないか。人生終わるぞ。まあ終わってるかもしれないけどチーターだから。 パソコン側がやられてる気もする。どうなんだろうね、こういうのって。どうなっちゃうんだろう。e スポーツ歴史上初めての事件。まあ、マジそれぐらいじゃないか。今まであったんかな。マジでエーペックスの脆弱性がマジで疲れたな。まあこのチーターがめちゃくちゃ暴れ回ってるらしいからな。どうすんだろうな、これ。まあまだダークゼロでよかったと言っていいのか分かんないけど、まだダークゼロでよかったね。まだ。もう確定してるし。確定してるプラス、1位だし。PC ごと行かれてる可能性あんのかな。それだったらまあ NA のこのディビジョン5で出てない人に誰か頼むとかね、ワンチャンあるのかな。どうなんだろう。JMW に出てもらうか。JMW 出てもらおうぜ。ゼロと一緒に世界取ったから、一回。どうすんだろう。そうだよな。TS も一回やられてるんでしょ。どうすんだろう、これ。普通にやばいな。マジどうすんだろう、これ。なんか言ってる。ディレスプ、ディスルレプセクトフルビハイバータワード、なんてわかんねえ。デブチーム。アナウンスメント。なんて読むんだろう。ディープルで翻訳してみよう。このチャットでは開発チームに対する無礼な振る舞いは許されません。ああ。開発チームに文句言うなと言ってるな。 や、マジチーターは死んでほしいからな、もう。控えめに言って。普通にやっちゃいけないことだからな。犯罪だよ。普通にこの時間とか、この人たちの時間も奪ってるし、選手たちの時間も奪ってるから、普通にこの、マジで何万人だってこの視聴者も見てるからな。視聴者も合わせると、本当に数十万人の時間奪ってるってことだからな、このチーターが。本当に賠償されたらもうとんでもなくなっちゃうぞ。うん。そうだよね。世界中の何万人の時間を奪ってるからな。普通に考えてやばいよ。ゼロのボセックで落とされてる？ジェンの？あ、でもこれはどうなんだ？これは先に落としたやつなんじゃないか？もう。多分これチートがオンなる前に倒したやつだから多分ここは無効ならないと思うけどな。ここでしょ？ここでやってるから、ここで入ったから、こっからだから多分大丈夫だと思うけど。どうなんだろう。ここまで多分実行操作でしょ？こっちから、なんて書いてんのこれ。TSM、春、オール、フック、TSM、なんて書いてんのこれ。TSM、なんでもこれ、ハラルみたいなやつ。なんだこれ、ハラルって。再開しそう？あ、再開しそうだね。どうすんだろう。あ、ジェンは、代わりに誰入ったんだ？あ、ジェントが入ってる。ジェントが代わりに入った。うわぁ。ジェントが入ったとはいえ、ジェンかわいそう。
Teams like Dark Zero, you want them to settle things out early here, especially to make sure that we see those points build up.
ジェントはジェントリファイかな？多分これ特例で認められたんかな？多分サブじゃないもんな、NA の。ちょっと待ってな。ジェントは、ジェントリファイ。そうだよな、サブじゃないもんね。多分この人、フェイズの人が代わりに出たんかな？代打で出てくれたっぽいっすね、今回。フェイズが今回出れてないから、代わりに、まあ、ジェントが出たって感じなのかな。フェイズの方ですね。まあ、ジェントもめちゃくちゃうまいんでね。
Though, after getting some loot over to the side, are also going to be able to get a nice ring console, getting even more information to where this circle is going to be pulling, because guess what? We are taking a trip all the way over to the west side of this map, so this could potentially be pulling towards Mill. We're going to have to see once we get that map feed up for you guys. And there you go. So a lot of the other teams, actually speaking of Dark Zero, will be able to have that POI advantage off the rip. But I want to take a look at teams like Ape Gang and E8s that will make that rotation. E8 kind of
春が標的されるかもしんない。まあワンチャンあるよな。 全然春が狙われてもおかしくないよな。
But more importantly, I'm most interested. I feel like a broken record in Optic here, starting out in Downed Beast. This is the best rotation you could have asked for, especially in their next game of Storm Point. So whether it be hand in position over mill or one of these buildings ahead here, this is a guaranteed potential end game if they are able to defend it, which so far today they have been able to do so.
I feel cursed. I feel like between EMEA and NA, this is like the third or fourth time we've seen a very similar end circle to this, especially uphill there. But Koiful is the first one to get knocked again, it looks like. Exit, a team that needs everything to make it into LAN, a team that hasn't been absent from LAN before. Losing out on Koiful is everything in this fourth game.
I think it is just so risky to extend that kind of movement when we're talking about an already round one close. I know it's minimal timings, but at the end of the day, when we talk about especially the regional final level teams that you're seeing, squads like Drop in Gaming are already making
まあでもこれ起こっちゃったらさすがに EA も黙ってないんじゃないか。もう対策もう本腰入れないとやばそう。さすがにこれはこの事件は逆にこれで良くなるっていうことを考えるとジェンには申し訳ないけどありがとうかもしんない。良くなると考えた方がいいかもな。今後良くなってくれるってことを祈って。
Well, we get to welcome Jet right back here. We also get to highlight Zero's loot pool. He's got the heavy. He may not have a sight for it, but he does have that gold extended heavy mag.
今回に関しては EA 悪くない悪い悪くない悪いで言われたら悪くないんじゃないか。そもそも EA が悪いてるからそもそも使うやつが悪いんだからな。普通に使ったやつが悪い。そもそも普通に犯罪だからな。
Literal vultures feasting in on what was left from the scraps of Zero and how he left the rest of E8. Opting Gaming now profiting in this building. Gonna clean up the rest of that while Zap tries to run away for his life. Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide as Nine Lives also picked that up, leaving them out of the lobby now as currently seeing more of these teams taking control of the DBZ buildings. Double Trident waiting outside of this building, which could be used as future makeshift cover.
This is something that we'll have to watch later, especially with the transition for so many of these teams.
あと1ポイントダークゼロは。
Dark Zero, obviously from high ground control, should be able to at least bully them out here as we get them back on towards that God Rock height. But even past that, some of these teams out from mill, depending on where they set themselves up, could be able to capitalize.
See the pings from the teams that are now exiting out of
まあ頑張ってほしいねダークゼロは。
coming out of the choke. We know that Oxygen Esports are tailing right behind them. It is also nice to note that both the ring console as well as the survey beacon.
確かにアメリカで訴訟されたらやばいだろうな。
Both Sentinels and Oxygen coming out of that POI with a lot of information here. While Zero's still holding a very split position to try to take a much more aggressive approach.
アメリカマジ訴訟大国って聞くもんな。何かあった訴訟みたいな。
Now for Sentinels, this is another roster that we talked about earlier today that needs to find their way to something akin of that win, and so far have been unable to push past the upper echelon of these placements. For Oxygen behind them, it's a free pickup on Luda, and especially with this next rotation head, albeit it's a catalyst, it's a great coverage on this wall. They don't have the numbers here to face off against Optic in this rotation.
Oh,
it will be punished.
Oh, between the Sentinel shot that was charged up to hit RKN and then the triple take to just top it all off. He is on the 6, probably 1 if he hasn't been knocked already. He just gets knocked right now, as I said that, by 9 lives. And he's playing off that bottom building too, only leaving 1 left from Sentinels.
You can already see Dynastied here from 9 lives, and of course Zero extending out to
だからもなかったっけマクドナルドでマックで太ったら太ったのはマックのせいだみたいなそんな裁判なかったっけ。あダークゼロこれでマッチポイントいったな。もう1ポイント取ったから
as we'll have to continue to check regarding the overalls.
もしかしたらあれかもな、チェンバー店、どっかの近くの家とか行ってんのかね。ワンチャン。誰かのとこ行ってプレイできるように時間つないでるかもしれないな。だから配信来たんじゃないか。普通だったらそのまま見そうだけど。まあでもそもそも気持ち悪いからやんのかな。どうなんだろう。後から帰ってくる可能性もあるな。
To remind folks at home here, if we do see an expedient win for Dark Zero potentially in these next few games, we still will play this one out to all 6 to give that extra chance to those teams to catch up on the points. It may not be us waiting to see Dark Zero on their way to land, but their potential placement, or their potential play definitely has a deciding factor in how these other teams work out.
Much more aggressive by the ledge there too. Meanwhile, this Sky's looking like gargoyles up on the high ground here. And for all the right reasons, they lost out on design. The banner is right in front of them, and it looks like the team that's giving them trouble, being native, are literally camping it out. You see from the scan alone, Timmy says it's too late. There's no reason why we should stay here any longer, and they're just going to dip off with the trident and
ゲーム以外の情報を抜かれないように配信来たのでは。
Usually they'd be playing off the back end of Designful on that Wraith, but this is the bit
そう、まあワンチャンそうなのかな。確かにいろいろと情報抜かれる可能性あるもんな。まあそんなことするやつがわざわざジェンの情報とか抜き取るか。そんな APEX の情報を抜き取るんだったら何かしらできそうだけどな、すべて。
Coming out of the choke from checkpoint right next to Legacy and disguised now with only Timmy alive. Seeing if he can maybe try to get this res onto enemy if nobody else is left in front of them looking at them and keeping them in their line of sight. The trident doesn't give them the cover that they need. Right on cue, they were waiting, trying to use enemy as bait to find Timmy.
Stuck behind the back wall, we'll find the bat for now, but for Timmy, has to somehow wrap this one out.
春もハックされた？
especially now with enemy down, but TSM in a heavy building across here,
マジ
just
言
as
ってる？
quickly as they peer, will be found knock drop down by Zainu. Thankfully, it is going to be Verholz getting back inside here for that sustained revive, and of course, what should be a hold on this building.
春も行かれたのこれ。
Rab's calling in the bang ult
これ？
right now, but a little too late with the team now swooping in, trying to break down the door. Hal trying to cover the high ground here, only leaving Reps on the low ground. He needs some help. He tries to swing as his back was turned to him by the door, and he immediately gets taken down by Yanya.
Popped back up here. Hal has to make for the quick recovery. Great pickup on Jaguars. That's a nice shield swap that should be available when Reps is pulled back up here, especially with the door broken down.
どういうこと？ああ、これもうこれ一旦これやばいんじゃないかこれ。大会中止もんだろ。これどうす？ああ、終わったな。これ終わったな。これもう今日やらないんじゃないか？これやばいな。これは今日無理だな、絶対に。
Yeah, hoping to at least carry some of that momentum into the next game right here too, because once again, that is the last game on Stormpoint before we do make that transition back over to World's Edge.
So, at least for the time being here, optimally, we still do sustain what should be Dark Zero in the lead. But of course, as we get things confirmed behind the scenes here, there might be some extra time for some of these teams to work out with some of those additional points as we solve some of these things, at least behind here.
Yeah, and while we do that, I do want to retouch on the fact that looking at how Dark Zero was performing right there, they were able to get that 2 extra KP. So also waiting to see if that does build up into the next game since they were able to get that 2 KP, or if that does have to revert back over, well, they were sitting with 48 points originally before getting into that game.
A nice thing to note too is we do get to see some of those
合法チート。悪くない合法チートじゃん。彼は割り切ってもう知らねえみたいな感じだったけど。もう今日は無理だろこれ。今日は無理だろこれ。
And talking about the differences in where some of these circles could be pulling, looking at Store Point, if we do have another very similar circle to that of Mill, since we've seen it so many times.
これどうなるんだろうな。
Teams like Nine Lives were in a very good position for that.
ね、春がハックされたクリップ欲しいよな。今のかなりやばかったけどな。だいぶ合法チートだったぞ。
This could really work well to the teams that have been playing on the bubble and haven't been able to find that stride with the changes that Season 20 has brought.
Yeah, and we've talked about a little bit of those timings with some of these teams who are more oriented towards that edge play style. And even though, yes, Nine Lives and even a team like Optic who sets themselves up right alongside them in that nut get them place fairly early, it is going to be how they capitalize, whether these zones change and set themselves up as we have seen in the past here. For Optic, if you're a big fan, obviously that quick rotation there is something that also continues to bear weight, as so far today they have been an inkling within every single end zone here.
And with the consistency that they've had too, talking about Optic in general and how they've needed to really have a pop-off day. If you were going to wait to the very end, this is the day to do it if you're Optic playing also by the bubble that we mentioned. Disguise bringing a very unorthodox comp. They did not have the best start going into that previous game. We saw that unfortunately the Rampart walls could only do so much. It's very similar to what Jayhawk was mentioning. It gives you that false sense of security with those barriers, and you really have nowhere to go to once you lose out on that one rotational tool, in that case being design, since he was the first one to go out. And it looked like he could have gone out by actually trying to bridge in that gap between themselves and the team that was trying to gatekeep them. Going in next though, they could try to find a way to maybe give design some more suppressed cover if he is trying to set up a better rotational pathway.
ついにチャット限定のスタンプ限定になっちまった。スタンプ限定になっちまった。いやーこれ地獄だな。よかったーマジこのさ NA でよかったわ。 NA でよかったっていうのはあれだけど A パックノースに来てさ、俺たちこれ来たらマジどうしようかなってなっちゃうわ。どうつなげばいいのこれ。どうつなぐマジで。よかった俺のところじゃなくて。いやーやばいよこれマジで。よかった俺これでならなくて。大会がハッキングされてしまい中止なる。これ一旦ここを固定するメッセージにしとこう。変えよう。春の4時間18分。4時間18分。30秒あたり。ここら辺か？この辺？本当だこれえぐ。これえぐいな。見えてるやつ全員当たってる。えぐすぎだろ。 これみんなチートモード乗ってるんじゃなくて、春だけなんかな。狙ってるのが後ろに行ってる。こっからあれか。さっき見たやつか。この最強のヘムロック。オートエイムこれまあね、ワンチャンがでもこれぐらいだったらさ、パッとだったらワンチャンあるよな。これだったらパッとだったらワンチャンありそう。これは普通にありそう。ここやばいんだよな。このヘムロックマジでいかれてる。ここがやばいんだよな、ここ。腰打ち180。これやばい。ここはえぐい。さすがにおもろい。どうすんだろうな、これ。Be right back. 愉快犯、まあ、愉快犯なんじゃない？愉快犯以外なんかあんのかな？チーター付与がトレンド入りしてる。私はエインボット当たりましたが、それは私がコントローラーでプレイしているだけでみんないい人でした。ナーフコントローラー。ナーフコントローラー。マンデがこのチーターと VC してたけど、バイバイもやってない完全愉快犯の開発らしいよ。そうなんだ。バイバイやってないんだ。バイバイをせずに、本当に愉快犯ってなんなんだ。もうちょっとなんかさ、その才能あるんだったらもうちょっとなんかいいとこにね、使えばいいのに。どうなるんですかね。さすがに中止かな、今日は。 確かにこれでチートランク中にやったらやばいよな。まあでもこの人が NA の人だからな。多分アメリカの人でしょ。日本側に来ることなさそうだけど、日本側に来たらやばいよな。ねえ。延期決まったっぽい。さすがに延期？いつだったとか、情報出てる？どこ出てる？これ見るために有給取ったんだが、マジで、ドンマイとしかいないわ。いやー、えぐいなー。マジでもハッキングされたら逆にもう、開き直って使うしかないよな。そこまで来たら。ナイツィがどうなってるか？うん、普通に。頭抱えてます。さすがにナイツィも頭抱えてます。これには。延期決定。これやばいなぁ。2試合目までのスコアも全部白紙なんかな。どうなんだろう。あ、これ出てるじゃん。これじゃね。due to the competitive integrity of this series being compromised, we have made decision か。decision to postpone the NA final at this time. We will share more information soon. だって。だってって言われても。ありがとうございます。このシリーズの競争上の安全性が損なわれたため、現時点では NA の決勝を延期する決定しましたって。やばいですね。 皆さん、歴史的瞬間に立ち会いましたね。皆さん、この、世界の e スポーツ業界の歴史に残る瞬間をみんなで一緒にね、体験できましたね。みんなの e スポーツ業界に残る歴史に残る一瞬をみんなで刻めたね。まあ、オフラインクローズドがになっちゃうのかな。どうなんだろうな。今後どうなるんですかね。まあ、世界初でしょうね。そもそも e スポーツで、まあでも世界大会でチート使った人はいるよね。世界大会なんか CSGO とか世界大会でチート使わなかったっけ？ GO のやつとか。なんかそういうニュースあったよね。けど APEC 大会自体がハックされたってのはないよな。春が配信始めた？何を配信すんの？逆に。I'm cheating! 何を配信すんだ？これから。逆に。配信始めてる。なんか言ってる。ちなみにチート付与は他のゲームであるよ。あ、あるんだ。大会は延期です。じゃあ世界初じゃないのかな。チート付与かのはわからないけど、CG で相手の画面を見えなくするチートあった。へえ。これが今話題のチー付与。ああ、なんやかんやあるんだな。まあでも、これででも大事になるんじゃないか？一番今、まあでも大事になるって言ってもあれなんかな。APEX は別に日本で流行ってるだけであって、海外とはまた別だからな。どうなんだろう。まあなんもできないよね。CG は相手の画面に好きな画像を載せるチートは、なんかそれあって聞いたことあんな。 それでバンさせんのか。どうなりますかね。e スポーツの悪いとこ出ちゃったか。ネットでやるからこそ、ネットであったために。怖いねこれは。向井さんは安全のために NPX をアンインストールしました。アンインストールする効率が欲しかったんじゃないか、あいつは。向井アンインストールする効率が欲しかったんじゃないか。やった、もうこれで APEX が離れられるじゃあなって。ここトンザできるじゃん。EMEA は見たよ。どうなるんですかね。神ゲーなのに。まあでも結局な。そうだよな。ああ、めっちゃ、あれ出ちゃった。どうなるんですかね。延期して変わるもんなんかな。対策まで。どうなんだろうね。すぐできるもんなんか。まあ、APEX ゲームとして終わっちゃった場合、どうなるんだろうな。でも、エペが終わったら多分ゲームやる人減るんじゃないか。逆に。もう多分エペやめたらエペ以外やることなくて、多分ゲーム自体やめる人多そう。そもそも。そもそもゲーム業界衰退しそうだな。日本の。春バンされた？本当だ、なんだこれ。アバンドンプライナリー？なんだろうこれ。バロしましょうって言ってもね、バロ CS できないしな。もう CS のユーザーが多すぎるし、そもそも。 エーペックスはな、ハードルが低いからな。まあ、どうもできないですね。何もできずに、これは。どうなるんですかね。そう思ったら、CS に行ったらいいんじゃないか。CS 関係あるか分かんないけど、CS に行ったら別に CS チーターも少ないだろうし。やっぱコンシューマー最強なんか、今。今は Apex PS5 じゃないか？ PS5 でやるべきなんじゃないか？どうするんですかね、これは。バロもバンされてるとはいえ、いないわけじゃないし。チーターマジ、オンラインゲームの鉄則だよな。どこにいてもチーターはいるしな。逆に一回エーペックスがちょっと廃れた時にバロにめちゃくちゃチーター移行したしな。これでエーペックスが廃れてバロが盛り上がったと思ったら多分チーター地獄になる。これからチーター地獄になっちまうからな。そしたらそれはそれで。今まだ、このエーペックスという檻に囲われてるチーターどもがいるけど、解き放たれたら、今人気なバロラントのランク上げようとって、チーターがバロラントに移行する可能性全然あるからな。どうなるかな、マジで。ロルとかに行くかも。こっからロルですか。こっからロルですか。ロルが流行るんですか、これが。ロルに取りつかれた人来た。ロルの人が来た。ロルもやばいらしい。ロルチーターいんの？ロルのチーターって何なの？ロルエゴサーチ。ロル一時期やったけどな。去年の12月ぐらいやったけど、始めの時期が悪すぎた。始めてめっちゃハマった時に1ヶ月ぐらいめっちゃつけてたけど、で、なんか変更するってなった時に、やめたら、みんな始めちゃったから、マジ時期悪すぎた。1月ぐらいみんながハマった時にハマってたら、よかったかもな。自動ヒット、自動回避のチートが有名ですね。オーバーウォッチ2の時代か。オーバーウォッチはね、もうオンラインゲーム、何がいいんだろうな。やっぱストリートファイターとかか？ストリートファイターか？このままエーペックス終わっていくの？ さすがに終わらないと思うけど。まあ、分岐点だね。今、分岐点立たされました。これで、エーペックス君は。対策しないと、まずいことになりましたね。PVE。まあでもやっぱ PVP が一番な、やってるからなんか楽しいんだよな。まあなんでも無理なんだろうな。なんやかんや。どう頑張っても、動画がいても、ネットに繋いでる以上何かしらあるんだろうな。よし、じゃあこれからみんなで、外で何かしよう。1000人今見てるから1000人何ができる？ 1000 人でスポーツしようぜ。外でスポーツしよう。そうすればチーターはいないはずだ。チーターはいねえ。逃走中。サッカーサッカーします？サッカーは11対11だよね。あと70人ぐらい応援団。ああ、そっか、ドーピングがいるのか。そうじゃん。スポーツもドーピングいるじゃん。ダメだ。この世の中は、何かしら、不正ができてしまうんだ。ダメだ。やばい、結局何もできないのか。組体操。組体操いいんじゃないか？組体操。体操はダメだな。組体操。みんなで作り上げる。もう開拓士なるか。開拓士なろう。みんなでさ、どっか耕そうぜ。樹海行かねえか、樹海。樹海って樹海切り開いて、そこに村作ろう。1000人の村を作ろう。樹海に。そこで平和に暮らすんだ。荒れる村作りそう。荒れる村ってめちゃくちゃ荒れてそうやんけ。リアルシムシティ。やっぱ PVE なのか？みんなで MMO やったら一番いいのかな。春チートスキャンしてる。スキャンしてもパソコンスキャンしても何も出てこない。ポケモンもいいなと思ったけど、ポケモンもさ、なんかいたよな。チートというか、改造ポケモン。改造ポケモンを、なんか、ミラクル交換で、 ミラクル交換でチートを送ってくるみたいなのなかったっけ？あったよね。世界大会で改造ポケモンが蔓延して大問題になった。そんなこともあるんだ。やばいな。もうもうどこでもあるじゃん。どこでもチートはいるじゃん。ダメだ、もう。やっぱオフラインだ。あれやろう。フォールアウトやろう。ここでフォールアウトだ。フォールアウト。やっぱ一人用ゲームが一番いいんだ。みんなで一人用ゲームやろう。ああ、バンされてる。ザ・クライアントゲー。もうダメじゃん。春はもう春もバンされてんな、完全に。もう終わりだな、一旦。まあ、あとは、運営のもう判断に任せるしかないな、あとは。運営次第だね。生きるか死ぬか。こっから運営の手によって変わってしまいます。どうすんだろうな。で、これ配信するのも結構危ないよな。エーペックス配信者死にました、これで。まあでも多分日本には来ないと思うけどな。日本でやらなそう。わかった。じゃあ俺がエーペックス空間やるか。今日の夜ぐらいにカスタムでも開くか。今日の夜、カスタムでも開こうかな。ちょっとエーペックスをみんなが忘れないように、カスタムでも開くか。まあもう一回、これは一旦チルですね。そこで集団ハッキングされて、後腐れなく引退。でもカスタム開いたらさ、カスタムにチーター紛れて、で、その人がさ、アカウントハックされましたとか言ったらさ、終わりだな。ダメだな。カスタム開くのもダメじゃねえか。カスタム開いてさ、チート入ってきて、その人がアカウントハックされましたって言ってさ、そう言っただけでさ、もうわからんじゃん。こっちに調べようないから。ダメだ。もう何もできねえじゃん、そう思ったら。どうすんだろう。カスタム無理だな、そう思ったら。 どうすんですかね。まあ一旦あれだね。もうちゃんとやりきるってかあれだね。運営が声明出すまでは何もできないな。どうすんだろうてかあれは。だからもう今後なんか APEX の大会とかあるけど、普通にこれやばいよな。APEX の大会とか普通にあるのに、APEX の大会、それ破壊されるってことは、あ、これか。これ、ジェンのやつやば。弾が変なとこ飛んでってんのか。倒したと思ってんのか、これ。これやばいな。やばいね、これマジで。確かにそうだよな。これで、APEX で生活してる人たち、まあ俺も含めてそうだけど、プロとかもっとやばいだろうしな。プロを含めて、もう世界で何人も生計立てる人もいるしな、こんなに。APEX のプロやって生計立ってますって人。この人たちの生命線立たれる可能性あるからな。やばいな。そう思ったら。とんでもないんじゃないか。間違いなく訴訟問題あるけどね、さすがに。さすがに訴訟でしょ。どうなりますかね。まあ、一旦終わるか。特にやることもないしな。もう、やることないしな。別に。これか。これが死んだところか。あんなところ死んだのか。じゃあ、この、エレブエイトも普通に被害被ってるから、どうなんだろうな、これ。どういう試合結果なんだろう。もう一回仕切り直しなんのかな。ここはどうなったんだろう、結局。まあ一応第3ゲームまではコンプリートされてるな。まああとは運営の動向次第だね。まあしょうがないっすね。まあもう本当に今後の APEX の対応、EA の対応によって変わると思うんでね。あとは皆さん、APEX の運命は運営次第ということで。もう、どうもできないと。あとはもう頑張ってもらいましょう。ということで、なんか特に終わることもないんですけど、終わることもないんですが、まあ、終わりましょうか。また、APEX が、どうなるかわからないんですけども、まあなんか復活してくることを祈って、一旦終わります。APEX の配信自体は、本当はね、今日 APEX ソロランク始めようかなと思ったんですけど、どうしよっかなって感じなので、まだ悩み中ですけど、まあ一応考えておきます。といった感じで、本日は見ていただきありがとうございました。 まあなんかちょっと後腐れすごい悪いですけども、まあ特にこれ以上何もないのでね。皆さんお疲れ様でした。今日仕事の方は頑張ってください。そして勇気を負った方はもう、まあ本当にもう残念としか言いようがありませんが、まだね、エーペックスのことを忘れないでください皆さん。エーペックスを愛していきましょう。それことでお疲れ様でした。